This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Broadcasting from the state-of-the-art L-shaped studios at beautiful and serene Ho-Ho-Loon Plaza in Vancouver, British Columbia. Greg Phillips and Nick Duke are the Hard-Traveling Fanboys.
Hard-Traveling Fanboys! Hard-Traveling Fanboys! Hard-Traveling Fanboys! Hard-Traveling Fanboys! Hard-Traveling Fanboys! Hard-Traveling Fanboys! Hard-Traveling Fanboys!
All the federales say could have had him any day.
Anyway, I'm just saying. If you're gonna, if you're gonna go for a Willie and Merle reference, you at least need to quote it appropriately.
Can you name that tune?
No, come on. Amateur hour around here, Greg. That, of course, is Poncho and Lefty.
That is correct. And you, ladies and gentlemen, are invited right now into the L-shaped studios in Ho-Ho-Loon Plaza in, oh gosh, it's so beautiful this time of year, isn't it, Nick? Luxurious Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada, for another rousing edition of the Hard-Traveling Fanboys. And in this particular instance, we are the hard travelers for hire.
Finally, it feels like we hadn't done one of these in quite some time.
Indeed. But we are back in the saddle again, to quote Aerosmith, and we are ready.
I can't wait for the all Aerosmith edition of Easy Like David Sunday.
That's right. I am ready to
embark, as you might say,
to embark upon a hard travel of some renown, Nick, because we have reached the end of Phase 2.
No, we haven't.
This is the end of Phase 2, isn't it?
No, it's not. Technically, Ant-Man is the final Phase 2 movie.
That's dumb.
Don't take it up with me. Take it up with Kevin Feige.
I will next time we have him on the show.
Okay.
In any event, we have reached the next saga in the tale of Marvel's The Avengers. Mm-hmm. And in this case, we're taking on 2015's Avengers Age of Ultron. And this is a movie that actually has... it has good marks and everything, as all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies do, but it has somewhat of a divided fan reaction and critical reaction compared to a lot of the other Marvel movies, and we'll be getting into that as we get going. Nick, what should the folks expect from our show here today?
I don't know. It's gonna be pretty interesting. I know Age of Ultron is one of those movies that has a somewhat I don't know. It's not as universally beloved as some of the other Marvel movies, and it has its fair share of detractors. But I think it's one that both you and I are higher on than most. Granted, even you and I disagree slightly on just how high we have it. But if you're looking for a teardown of Age of Ultron, this is probably not going to be the podcast for you. We're probably going to find a lot more things to praise than we are to criticize.
Yeah, basically what we're saying is we've come a long, long way together. Through the hard times and the good, we'd like to celebrate Age of Ultron. We'd like to praise it like we should. Mm-hmm. Indeed. And so, with that being said, let's lay the groundwork before we start the film here of Age of Ultron. Obviously, this was a movie that was in development for quite some time. I believe Joss Whedon started working on this script sometime in the fall or the summer of 2013, and kind of tweaking it and getting it just right. And heading into 2014 is where they did the bulk of the filming for this one. And there were questions going into it about whether Joss Whedon would return, whether Robert Downey Jr. would return as his contract was up. But thanks to that hefty, handy little thing called the negotiating process, both Robert Downey Jr. and Joss Whedon returned. Whedon had some specific ideas for things he wanted to do. He wanted to do a story that was more personal in nature for the Avengers, delving more into their individual characters, and also wanted to introduce a few new characters that were visually interesting in terms of Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, which, as you may recall, Nick, led to quite a bit of controversy online at the time because Quicksilver, in particular, was already used in X-Men Days of Future Past by Fox. Mm-hmm. And the character of Scarlet Witch, I believe that there was some question as to her rights issues going on as well. So it was a very interesting process that played out as we were seeing all these other MCU movies come out, like Thor: The Dark World. What else came out during that process? What were the ones in 2014? That would have been...
oh, man, in 2014, that would have been Thor: The Dark World, and would it not have been Captain America: The Winter Soldier? And
no, yeah, Dark World was 13, Winter Soldier was 14, and Guardians of the Galaxy was 14.
Guardians of the Galaxy, yep.
And I believe Guardians was the last one that we reviewed back in November, was it?
December.
Like that? December. And so it hasn't been that long, but it just feels like it. So now we are ready to tackle the Avengers again, and everybody's back from the first one except Loki. He's not in this one. Actually, there's a funny story there that I found out yesterday. He actually filmed some scenes for this, but they were cut out of the movie and don't even appear on the Blu-ray. So Tom Hiddleston, nowhere to be found. And the reasoning behind that was that audiences, from what I read, is that audiences at test screenings kept expecting Loki to be revealed as the mastermind behind everything and were disappointed when he wasn't. So they decided to just cut him out entirely from the movie. So
interesting. I had not heard that.
Yeah. So now we take us to the release of the movie, and Nick and I both watched it together, which we don't get a chance to do with a lot of these Marvel movies, but in this case, we were able to watch this one together at the movie complex, as I call it, and at the movie complex, we watched it, and we pretty much just, as I remember it, Nick, just sat there with our jaws open for much of the film.
Yeah, that's a fair statement to make. We were pretty blown away the first time we saw it. You know, it's one of those that has so many great moments that I have a hard time, or I had a hard time, you know, when it first came out and really understanding a lot of the criticisms it was getting, understanding a lot of the hate it was getting. In subsequent years, I've come to understand some of the complaints, but I still think a lot of them are overblown, in my opinion. Yeah,
I remember when we left the theater, both of us were convinced that was better than the first one. We both were effusive in our praise of it, and I think part of that is this movie, unquestionably, in my opinion, has more direct nods to the comics than the first one did in terms of visual cues and just cool shit happening that we never thought we would see, whether it's the Thor and Captain America working together in a cool fight scene, the Hulkbuster costume and that subsequent fight, Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch, and even the at times seeming allusions to a Mark Miller storyline that we'll mention later on. Just so many cool, War Machine and Avengers Tower and Jarvis and the creation of the Vision and all of these things that were so cool from the comics or from cartoons when we were younger that we were seeing brought to the big screen. It was just mind-blowing at the time. And I'll also say this is a movie, there are certain movies that you really have to see on the big screen, and this is one of them. Because I enjoyed it on Blu-ray, as we'll get into, but it's not the same as seeing it in the theater.
I could probably agree with that.
Yeah, it's one of those deals like Star Wars that just it just blows your mind when you see it at the theater. And so we were overjoyed with it. Now, subsequently, I have watched this one, I think, maybe only 3 times since then. The first time was not long after it came out on video, and then last year I watched it again on TV, and I was less enamored with it than I was when I first saw it. And then this time watching it, I was slightly less enamored with it than I was that time. So we'll get into that. I still very much enjoyed it, but I think we may have some interesting discussions, or not. Who knows? How many of our discussions are actually interesting? I don't know. Probably none. But nevertheless, what we do here on Hard Travelers, the same thing that we do on Off the Page, is we actually put the movie on in the background on mute with subtitles just to kind of follow along with our conversation. We're not going to watch the entire movie. We're going to use it to drive conversation, to remind us of some points here and there, and then at a certain point, we'll end it. And we invite you guys to watch along with us and then maybe continue watching once we're done talking about it. But we're going to give you time right now to fire up your DVD or Blu-ray copy or digital copy if you have one. Unfortunately, this movie is not streaming anywhere that we could find. And so we are watching, I'm watching on Blu-ray. I don't know, Nick, are you watching it on Blu-ray, DVD?
I'm going to be watching a digital copy that I'm actually having a little bit of technical difficulties with, so you'll have to bear with me here. You may be starting the movie before but we will work through as we always do.
As we always do. We're going to praise you, the listening audience, like we should. And we're going to get that started. I'm going to give you a chance to get your copy if you want to pause the podcast right now and get it fired up there. All right. And I am at 00001 on my Blu-ray. And I'm going to hit play in 3, 2, 1, play. One of the things that I don't like about Blu-rays, or these Blu-rays, is that it shows the chapter title every time you pause it.
Interesting. It shows the actual title, not just the chapter number.
No, it shows the chapter title, yeah.
Ah, yes, that's because they started instituting those menus at the bottom that would pop up whenever you would do the chapters and stuff. So, yeah, that makes some level of sense. This is the old Marvel Studios logo, which I kind of don't really miss after I see the new one. I kind of love that new intro they have with the different footage from all the different movies. I
agree, which I never thought I would say, because I think that one's so iconic that I thought I would never get used to anything else. But now, like you, I've gotten used to the new one. I really did.
There's our first glimpse at a certain Mark Miller storyline.
The love that dare not speak its name. So let's get into that. Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch are introduced in this film.
Is that where we're going to start this one?
Let's just the movie kicks off with Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch holding hands, and we're going to kick it off with a discussion of Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch doing the horizontal bop as
I'm just watching
Bob
Thor
Seger
dominate these guys, though. This is kind of awesome.
Yes. That bit of CGI was not awesome, but I can live with it.
Yeah.
Him swinging the thing around, but this is great. This is great. Captain America on his motorcycle going through and wrecking shop, and there's Thor with a lightning strike, Hulk throwing shit around. I mean, this is awesome. If you can't enjoy this,
and I mean,
what are you doing even watching these?
There's like right there. I mean, we are what are we? We're about a minute and a half in, less than 2 minutes in, and we've already gotten our iconic the Avengers jumping into profile shot. So one of the things about this movie is it would have been so easy to do some sort of thing where it's like the Avengers haven't really been doing much since the events of the first movie, and you have to put the band back together, and you delay that moment of seeing them all together, and you make people wait for it in this one after they'd already waited through pretty much the entire first film to get it. And instead, Joss Whedon just hits you right off the bat. Like, no, they're the Avengers now. They're fully formed. You don't really have to watch them come together again the way you did in the first one. And I that's one creative decision I really liked. Just drop us in and tell a story.
Absolutely. And sell, for God's sake. But yeah, no, I really dig how they did that. And I don't know if have we missed the line yet? Yeah, we did miss it. The awesome, the first, probably still the best part as far as lines go in the whole movie is Iron Man cursing and Captain America says language, and then Iron Man's subsequent reaction and callback to that throughout the movie.
Yes, So
Are
anyway.
we just going to pass over the fact that Cap just said language?
All right. So Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. I guess that's where you wanted to start.
Yes. Quicksilver being played by that actor whose name I can't remember that played Kick-Ass.
I believe his name is Aaron Johnson?
Aaron Taylor Johnson?
Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson. I believe that is the case, yeah.
Yes, and Scarlet Witch played by the lovely Elizabeth Olsen. And
Greg.
Yeah, I'm a fan. What can I say?
You are. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not a fan. It's just you're a massive fan. I think she needs to be checking her mail and stepping up security on her premises if I were her.
Checking her DMs too.
Her DMs. To slide into her DMs.
Slide into her DMs.
Are you using the hip lingo like the kids these days?
I'm hip.
I'm
with it.
Duck it.
Aww. Anyhow, now, and in this film, there are multiple instances. They don't come out and say it, and they don't even show it. But there are instances of references to a very close relationship between Pietro and Wanda in this film. They are brother and sister, and twins, in fact. And they have an extremely, Nick, I would say, close relationship with one another. They feel each other's pain.
That ain't all they feel.
And as those of you who may have listened or read our columns actually back in the day may remember, in the Ultimates series by Mark Miller and
Brian Hitch.
Brian Hitch, yes, thank you. Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch have an incestuous relationship with one another.
Now, to be fair, Greg, the 616 counterparts have always there's been a weird relationship there. It's just never been taken to that level. But there's certainly some. If you want to find that in there, there's certainly
if you want to find it, sure. But if you want to find it, you can find something between Batman and Robin too. You know,
that's true. People have said that.
I'm just with God, Robin, my knees are so wobbly. But anyway, yes. So Mark Miller, as he often does, takes those hints and outright says the thing. So and it was funny. It was entertaining at the time. But in any event, that's a nice little nod we get here in this movie, where you don't have to see it if you don't want to see it, and many people would prefer not to see it. But for those of us who have read the Ultimates,
you can't unsee it.
Ultimates 2, you can't unsee it, exactly. And this action sequence just continues to be great. This intro in this wintry base of Hydra in Eastern Europe, as the Avengers take it over and go after Baron von Strucker, is just terrific, just fantastic. Even down to Strucker, who has a great part where he's trying to motivate his men, and he says, "No surrender!" And then he instantly turns to his little henchman guy, and he says, "I will be surrendering." That's just really good stuff. Great writing from Whedon, great direction here, great acting by everybody involved. Everyone just instantly picks up their characters where they left off. Oh. Yes, I love this. This Thor bouncing his hammer off of Cap's shield to create a tidal wave of sorts that knocks through the enemy tank. That's not going away anytime soon. Great scene. I mean, everybody we've talked so many times in this Hard Travelers for Hire series, Nick, about how everyone, the casting has been so perfect here that everyone just inhabits these characters. They become these characters and in some cases transform our understanding of these characters. And it carries through here. It's just obvious. I mean, I'll go ahead and say it. For me, Robert Downey Jr. just owns this movie. Every single thing he says in this movie is classic to me. He's as good as he's ever been in any of the other ones. He's just dynamic every time he's on screen. And that goes for everybody else, too. Everybody's good in this movie. All the actors are good in this movie. But Robert Downey Jr., just from the get-go, from his interactions with Jarvis, from his interactions with the rest of the team, and when he needs to play serious, and when he needs to portray Tony's neurosis and his paranoia, he does that well, too. It's just a great performance by RDJ.
Yeah, I agree completely. And, it's definitely I think Whedon does a good job of balancing all the different team members, but if there's one character that has more to do than the others, I think it's unquestionably Stark, because he kind of bears the brunt of the plot, feels the guilt of the actions he's taken, and kind of is directly responsible for setting the events of the movie into motion. So it makes sense that he gets an opportunity to steal a lot more scenes. But even if he didn't have as many opportunities, he would do it anyway, because he's that damn good at it. Also, I cannot, that's one thing, this never bothered me. I guess it still doesn't bother me per se, but I can't watch this whole, sun's getting real low bit now without seeing Chris
thinking of Ragnarok?
Without thinking of Hemsworth trying to do it in Ragnarok. And it just makes it funny.
Totally agree. I completely agree. That same thing happened to me, Nick, watching it last night. I just kept giggling every time this scene came up because of thinking of Ragnarok and Hemsworth, and the look on his face when he tries to do it in Ragnarok.
Yes,
too.
his seductive look.
Seductive face. There's a great effect.
Which Scarlett Johansson... I don't know that we've actually seen that effect in any of the Avengers or Hulk movies to this point. The full... most of the times they will hide the transition somehow. We have seen the transition from Banner to Hulk in full profile, but I don't know that we've actually seen the detransition without being bathed in shadow or partially done off screen or something like that.
And what was really cool is how similar it looked to the old 70s Hulk show.
Right.
Like when he was transforming there, the green pigmentation on his skin. I really liked that effect. Mm-hmm. And another thing we should mention is how, I agree, is how the kind of a horror movie effect there. But I really like how Hulk looks in this movie, period. I mean, he looked good in the Avengers, too. But it just feels like with each appearance, they tweak his CGI just a little bit and make it even better.
Well, I would imagine a lot of that has to do with technology continuing to improve. But yeah, they have. It's been a work in progress, and they continue to improve upon that effect.
So here we see a little bit of the armor that will become Ultron at some point in the future. And we should probably mention Age of Ultron is also the name of a comic book series, but that is not what this movie is based on.
No, not at all.
This is based on the character of Ultron over the course of several decades. Nick, you have read a lot more Avengers books than I have. Tell us a little bit about Ultron in the comics.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm a preeminent expert on the Avengers, but I'll give you kind of a Cliff's Notes as I understand it. One major difference from the movies and the comics is that in the comics, Ultron is created not by Tony Stark, but by Hank Pym. Hank Pym kind of imbues Ultron with some of his intelligence and tries to create this perfect artificial intelligence, much for the same purposes that Tony does, to try and make the world a safer place and kind of have an independent AI who is capable of doing some of the things that the Avengers can't do. And much like Ultron here in this film, the Ultron of the comics comes to decide that the problem with the world is not terrorists, but humanity in general. It's not supervillains, it's people as a whole are inherently evil, and the world would be a better place without them. Otherwise, they're going to destroy the planet if he doesn't destroy them first. Which is a fair point. But there is the whole kind of a daddy complex that Ultron has, and in a borderline obsession with Hank Pym, even though he is often written as somewhat cold and detached. Pym is the one that seems to be able to get the closest to an emotional response from him, and they kind of give that to Ultron here in this film, but with Stark obviously in the father role as opposed to Pym.
Mm-hmm. And in the comics, as opposed to what we see in this film, is Ultron in your readings anyway? I know you haven't read all of the great Ultron stories, but in your readings, what has been the kind of characterization of Ultron from a personality standpoint?
Oh, he's definitely been more of just your generic homicidal AI, very cold and detached, the way you would imagine an artificial intelligence to be. Almost like a Marvel version of the Terminator. Not, cold and unfeeling. Speaks more than the Terminator for sure, but not really one that's going to crack jokes or give you a ton of personality. And that is by far the biggest difference between the film and comics adaptations of the character that I've read.
And I would assume part of that is because in the comics he's taking on some of the personality elements of his father, Hank Pym, who's a very not exactly the most happy-go-lucky and funny and charismatic character in the comics. And here in the film, he's taking on personalities of his two father figures, Bruce Banner, but more specifically, Tony Stark. and that dry sarcasm that Stark has. And this movie marks really the first time we have met a character, as we'll talk about a little bit later on with Ultron, that gives Tony's attitude back to him in the same manner that Tony delivers it,
right? With
sarcasm and that sort of dry, quick wit. Now, this movie follows up on the heels of theoretically should be following up on the heels of Iron Man 3 from 2013.
Pretty good Thor line there.
Oh, absolutely, great Thor moment. So the last time we saw Tony Stark before this movie was at the end of Iron Man 3, where both you and I interpret the ending of Iron Man 3 to indicate Stark was giving up being Iron Man, correct?
Yeah, that's kind of the way I took it, is that he was walking away from being Iron Man, but clearly that was not the case.
I have seen it, right, I've seen it posited that perhaps you could spin it as being he was blowing up his old life and moving on to the future and showing he was no longer anchored to the idea of being Iron Man. But I viewed it as him realizing that he could use this Iron Legion he had created to be Iron Man, basically, and he no longer had to do it, which would logically lead into a movie where you would think Stark is trusting it entirely to this AI that would then go rogue and become Ultron. But that's not really the approach they take here, and instead the take is that Tony is still Iron Man, and he, the vision that is brought upon him by the Scarlet Witch's manipulations, fears a future in which the Avengers are dead, and it's his fault because he couldn't protect the Earth, and he had an ability to stop it in some way but didn't. So it gets this idea in Tony's head of taking Loki's scepter, which they rescue at the beginning of the movie, and along with the help of Dr. Bruce Banner, creating an artificial intelligence that can basically do the Avengers' job for them, to be the first line of defense for Earth against any extraterrestrial threats. And it's an obsession of Tony's, and he and Bruce kind of surreptitiously work on this behind the rest of the team's back, along with Jarvis, the artificial intelligence entity. And it ends up backfiring spectacularly and creating Ultron, who, again, has elements of Tony's personality, but wrapped in this web of artificial intelligence and autonomy of sorts.
Yeah, that's a pretty good summary of what's going on. I suppose one thing I had thought about, Greg, is perhaps the ending of Iron Man 3 could be signifying that Stark is looking to walk away from being Iron Man, but is seeking to wrap up all the loose ends. And one of the things we find the Avengers doing here at the beginning of this movie is wrapping up the loose ends of Hydra that were turned up as a result of the first Avenger. So maybe this is Tony, actively looking for an exit point and viewing Ultron as the means to that end, I guess, is one way you could look at it without it completely invalidating the ending of Iron Man 3, even though I still agree I took it the same way you did.
Right. No, that's a good point. So kind of getting into the crux of this is a movie that kind of, like we mentioned, sort of ignores Iron Man 3 in large part, does acknowledge the events, obviously, of Winter Soldier, and that probably has the biggest impact because there's no S.H.I.E.L.D.
Right.
Even though we do see members of S.H.I.E.L.D. In terms of Nick Fury and Maria Hill and people like that pop up. Mm-hmm. But there are other moments here and there that seem to be kind of glossing over other MCU movies in favor of telling this particular story. But they get into it, and we've got the whole team here. And one of the things and they're showing him here, so I'm bringing him up. Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye gets a lot more to do in this movie than he did in the first Avengers.
And kind of deservedly so. I mean, a lot of people, were very upset about the treatment of Hawkeye. I know you and I aren't the world's biggest Hawkeye fans, so we didn't really care about the fact that he was brainwashed for the vast majority of the first film. But I know a lot of people were, and this kind of felt like something of a make good, where Joss Whedon was like, all right, we kind of got to give this guy a little bit more, or not really, a little bit more to do than even some of the other members of the team, just to make up for how he was treated in the first film.
Exactly, and the creation of Ultron, as we're seeing right here, is a big plot point that comes up throughout the film. It's Tony's paranoia, which is a recurring theme, but it's also Banner's as well. I mean, Banner goes along for the ride. It doesn't exactly take Tony much to convince Banner to go along with him. And so when you see a divide in the team later on in the film, which sort of predates what we'll see later on in Civil War, but when you see this sort of divide in the team later on, it's clear that Banner identifies with the way that Tony is thinking.
Yeah, I mean, and that makes sense, because if you view it in the context of Stark looking for a way out of the life he's built, there is probably no other Avenger who is going to want out of the life he's found his way into than Banner. He's the guy who's always seeking an exit, and it makes sense that he would want to be able to walk away from this responsibility of being an Avenger at some point.
Right, exactly, and we also met Dr. Helen Cho, is that her name?
Yes, in the comics, she is, I believe, the mother of your favorite and mine, the totally awesome Hulk, Amadeus Cho.
Amadeus Cho.
Yes.
Who is not to be confused with Beethoven Cho. Completely different. Two different businesses.
Indeed.
Now, we talked about Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. We talked about Iron Man and his kind of situation here. And he's, again, still reeling from the effects of the Chitauri invasion, which, of course, was part of the plot of Iron Man 3, was him coming to terms with that. However, much like Hal Jordan in Emerald Twilight, after dealing with the initial trauma, the trauma comes back to him, and he reacts badly. And in this case, Tony creates Ultron, unintentionally in some ways. It doesn't turn out the way he expected it to. But one of the things that they have been pretty consistent with in the MCU is that secrets are bad, and they will come back to bite you.
Right.
We've seen that pretty much as a thread from the very beginning with Iron Man. Every time that somebody in the MCU tries to keep a secret, it backfires spectacularly. And we, of course, see that come to full fruition in Civil War when it's learned that Captain America has kept the secret of Tony's parents' death from him all these years. Now, we mentioned all of the returning cast members. We have some new cast members, obviously Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. We also have Paul Bettany moving from his role as Jarvis into the Vision, who gets created later in the film in a great sequence.
Yes,
he's a great addition to the cast. He's been in these movies since the beginning, but this is the first time we've seen him in live action and seen him as the Vision. And I really, really liked the creation of Vision process, that whole scene, the way that they illustrated his powers, his look.
The entire, combination of practical and CGI effects on the Vision, just the way he looks and moves, is one of the most impressive visual effects, in my opinion, in the entire MCU. It is uncanny how they've been able to nail that feeling when you look at the Vision, that you feel like you're seeing something that is only halfway organic. You look at him and he looks like a person, but there's just something about him that still doesn't look quite right. And it's just that it's so perfect the way they were able to bring that character to life. I absolutely love the design of that character and the way he's handled it here and subsequently throughout the rest of the MCU movies that he starred in to this point.
Yes, it's a continual.
You all right
impressive.
over there?
Yes, well, I sent you a text message just a moment ago, but you appear not to have received it. But nevertheless, it's been a tremendous visual feast to see the Vision on the big screen. They did a great job with it. Did a great job also with the effects on Quicksilver and the Scarlet Witch. I know one of the things that you've always been high on in this movie is how they illustrated Quicksilver's powers.
Right.
Because you were not going to top that Quicksilver scene from Days of Future Past.
And anytime you've seen similar powers depicted, even to this day, it almost always is, the slow motion take. I mean, that's what the Flash, Justice League did with the Flash. They went with the slow motion take, and here, I kind of like the fact they don't fall into that trap. They just decide, you know what, you're not really supposed to be able to see what all he's doing. So we're just going to go with the blur moving across the screen, and I like that. I mean, that's a take.
I like it too. I have to admit, watching it this last time, I didn't like it as much as you in Execution. I don't know what it was about it, but I think maybe that's the reason that so many people go with the slow motion take is it's hard to make it look cool. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that Quicksilver looked as cool in this movie as he did in Days of Future Past, for instance.
Well, that I could probably agree with, but I like the fact that they were able to make a visual distinction between the two.
I do like that too. Yeah, I did. As for the performance, I have to say I thought he was probably the weak link in the cast in this one.
He also
not
probably
to
had
say as an.
Yeah, he probably had the least to do though. Like he kind of just plays a generic foreign guy. Isn't really given much in terms of depth. I mean, even in the scene where they reveal like why they hate Stark, it's really Scarlet Witch who has the best lines in that scene, and that's probably intentional on Whedon's part because he knew who was going to be sticking around and who wasn't.
And he wasn't, right. And they give Quicksilver some comedy lines, some comedy moments, and they just don't work for me.
Right.
They're just a little bit off. It doesn't hit with me the way that obviously the lines from Stark do, but even the lines from Rhodey, who you see very briefly in this movie, but he makes every scene count. I mean, this is awesome.
That's a good bit.
Rhodey tells this joke earlier to the Avengers, and they're completely unimpressed. I think it's Thor and Stark who are there, and they're completely unimpressed by his story. Tells the same story to a group of normies, if you will, and they bust out laughing, and you just see this little pump of his fist and this little nod of
great Stan cameo, by the way.
Yes, agreed.
Including Excelsior. There we go.
Excelsior. So yeah, just a great scene with Rhodey. This whole scene at the tower, by the way, the whole party scene,
is excellent.
Is excellent. It's probably my favorite part of the movie. Outside, that and the opening and the Hulk and Iron Man fight that we'll talk about later. But this party scene is just awesome for team dynamics,
right?
Getting a sense of everyone's personality and just seeing. I guess maybe that's because it's Joss Whedon writing. I almost feel like these Avengers movies are at their best when the team is just not doing anything interesting
and talking to each other. Yes, I mean that's
just talking to each other.
That is absolutely Whedon at his best. I mean, he does action okay, and he does plots well. But when it's characters just getting to sit around and talk and just have interactions, that is where he's at his best. And that that's right in my wheelhouse because I've made no secret of the fact that I love writers like Brian Michael Bendis who excel at dialogue and character interaction and sometimes struggle with like plot and action and that kind of stuff. So this is right up my alley in terms of a Marvel comic brought to life.
Yeah, so there's all that stuff. We'll get into, yeah. We'll get into Hulk smash indeed.
No, we won't, unfortunately, but that's neither here nor there.
Well, there's still time in the future. Perhaps Wanda will need someone to lean on after Vision gets his diamond removed from his head, the soul gem.
Well, that's kind of a nod right there, that line from Cap.
Not the soul gem,
to Winter Soldier, gem. Saying that he's seen her flirt up close, kind of playing off a little bit of their chemistry from Winter Soldier.
Right, I agree. Which again, I've said this before, and I'll die on this hill if I have to, but I would be much more interested in a Cap and Black Widow fling than I am in and this is we might as well go ahead and get into this because it's going to come up anyway.
Sorry, I keep getting distracted. Yeah. This might be my favorite scene in the movie.
Oh yeah, I agree.
This is, and I know you could count the entire party as one scene if you wanted to, but this little bit right here, it's just
with the hammer.
It is
tremendous,
perfect in every way.
So funny. Everyone in the cast is great. Don Cheadle as War Machine. Of course, we mentioned RDJ. Chris Evans is amazing as Cap in this movie, as he is in every movie. Hemsworth as Thor is great. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow. A lot of people don't like that line, Nick. I don't think we're going to go into that, but I thought it was pretty funny.
I thought it was hilarious.
That was an ad lib by RDJ.
I'm sure a lot of things are.
Yes. According to Joss Whedon on the director's commentary, much of this film is of Robert Downey Jr.'s lines are ad libbed. A whole bunch of them. And even some of the other characters as well. But RDJ, of course, is the most trusted and prominent one to ad-lib a good, funny line whenever he needs to.
Hemsworth's face right there.
Yes, the brief look of fear when the hammer just wiggles just a little bit, you know?
Yes. Just phenomenal.
Love the bit with Black Widow there. And this scene and what makes this scene even better in hindsight is the payoff at the end.
Yes. When
Vision is the one that finally lifts the hammer. You're all not worthy. Tremendous. But yes, so what I was going to get into is the first bit of controversy in this movie. Or should we get into Ultron since this is his introduction?
Yeah, this is kind of the first introduction to Ultron where I guess we heard him speak a little while ago when he was introduced in AI form, but this is our first look at Ultron moving and speaking at the same time. Voiced, of course, by James Spader, who's just absolutely phenomenal in this film. I think,
yes,
by far the most interesting version of Ultron I've ever read. Not that that's saying a whole lot compared to some of his more bland and distant and cold counterparts, but he just brings a level of personality to this character that I was not expecting coming into this. I was kind of expecting, I had this idea of what Ultron would be coming into the movie, and it's not what we got at all, and I would argue that's for the better.
Agreed. I think anyone going into this movie, certainly I was expecting a traditional kind of detached robot version of Ultron, where, he's threatening the world and he wants to eliminate humanity and this, that, and the other, which is, yes, what he's trying to do. But Spader and Whedon craft a version of Ultron that is just infinitely more interesting than that. It's much more interesting than reading an Ultron who is like a typical robot villain, like a Hardak from Batman the Animated Series, for instance, who's a great villain too. I'm not knocking that, but it's. But you know what I'm saying here. Wow. But what I'm saying is the Ultron here, as played by Spader, like we mentioned earlier, he has those elements of Stark's personality, and Spader plays it so well that he's almost like a reverse Tony Stark. Like pretty much every nightmare that Iron Man's ever had brought to life. And realized, and it just works. It works in a big bad way. In a universe that we've talked about, Nick, has struggled with villains. We mentioned it with Guardians of the Galaxy. We mentioned it with Thor: The Dark World. We mentioned it with Iron Man 3. These MCU movies have, to this point in our journey, struggled with their villains at times. And to me, Ultron instantly takes his spot probably right below Loki as the best villain that we've encountered so far in our hard travels for hire.
I would probably agree with that, although I want to give again, love to Robert Redford as Alexander Pierce in Winter Soldier. Yeah. He was also phenomenal.
He was very good.
But yeah, yes. Other than those two, and I would probably still have him above Ultron above Pierce as well. Just a great villain. Almost to the point where I'm kind of sad they do away with him by the end of the film and didn't leave the door open.
I still believe there's an out for that.
Yeah, probably so.
Because we don't actually see Vision destroy Ultron. Mm-hmm. We see the light. So I think there's a potential, if they wanted to get all comic booky, where Vision preserved a portion of Ultron in his own consciousness or something.
Right.
Because he didn't want to, because he's all about life and he doesn't like to kill or destroy. So but yeah, I think there's still a potential that Ultron could pop up again in the future. But a phenomenal villain, a villain who, and what does he share in common with Pierce, but especially with Loki? He shares charisma. A villain that has a panache, has something about him more interesting than the fact that he's a villain. You can do a stoic villain and it's fine, but if every villain is the stoic, detached villain, it's no longer interesting. And he is nothing like Loki. He's a total different kind of charismatic than Loki. And it just makes for this great, deep villain who is simultaneously struggling to figure out what and who he is, while also trying to serve his protocols, while also trying to adapt to culture and develop a personality of sorts. It's really brilliant what they do with Ultron in this movie.
Yeah, I agree completely.
So, moving along, but that does introduce one aspect that I will criticize about this movie, which I like the movie a lot, but I agree. I've talked to some of my coworkers, I've talked to some other people about this movie over the years online as well, and one of the complaints that people have about it that I do agree with is we are, gosh, let me check the timestamp on this, Nick. I don't know how far we are in this movie, but
about 34 minutes.
34 minutes in the movie, and Ultron is already here. He's already free, and he's already off on a loose, which wouldn't be an issue if Ultron had been at all hinted at in prior movies. But in this movie, we get the cardinal sin of telling, not showing, in terms of they started out and Banner mentions to Stark in passing, "Oh, you're talking about Ultron. Well, that will never work. We can't make that happen." And then Stark says, "Oh, we've got something different now. We've got the staff." So to me, that doesn't sit well with me. I don't like the idea of all this information existing off screen that, it's like we talk about with The Walking Dead sometimes, where there will be character shifts that happen because of events that occur off screen that we're never privy to. And in this case, rewatches have kind of brought to my attention the fact that, I get that complaint, because if this had been a protocol that had come up in a prior movie, or a conversation that Banner and Stark had in the first Avengers movie, or even in Iron Man 3, or something like that, where there was something they were sharing notes on, or some idea that they had and it hadn't worked yet, or they, bandied it about, or it had been something that we had been building to, I think it would be easier to pass off than basically a 15-minute sequence in this movie where Ultron is conceived, the idea is conceived, the idea is put together, the idea is executed, the idea fails, and then Ultron comes to life. And that's all in about a 10 to 15-minute stretch of movie that happens. So I do agree with that. I think that hurts in terms of building Ultron's cash with the audience a little bit. And I think his performance makes up for that, but I think it does hurt the overall plot of the movie that we didn't have more of a sense of dread and more of a sense of build to what we get with Ultron. Your thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily agree. Like, I get the fact that it probably, you would have wanted it to be hinted at in some of the solo movies. Perhaps I can somewhat agree with that, although I'm not as bugged by it as you are. But the idea that he is created and then kind of turns pretty much instantly, that doesn't really bother me, because we've kind of seen that in other forms of pop culture with various artificial intelligence. I think they make reference to in the Terminator films that Skynet becomes self-aware like immediately after being activated and basically starts its rampage. So it makes sense that an artificial intelligence would, pretty quickly suss out the issues with humanity, at least from this comic perspective. So that part of it doesn't really bug me a lot.
No, my issue is not with that. My issue is with the fact that there's no build to it. Like, we're not dropped into the Terminator and we're dropped in the Terminator, and the Terminator shows up, and he's badass, but we see him go and take the clothes off of the bikers and go to town and wreck shop and we don't know a damn thing about him, and we have to learn as we go along. With Ultron, we're given this info dump in about 10 minutes, and then here's this character. And we really don't get to see him do a whole hell of a lot either. I mean, he has conflicts with the Avengers. We have him meeting with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch here, but we don't get to see him. We hear about all this bad stuff that Ultron's doing around the globe, but we don't actually see much of it. And so I think that for me, the combination of the info dump, the lack of build to it, and the fact that we don't really get... Basically, at no point in this movie am I really scared of Ultron. Like, Ultron does not feel like he is... how should I put this? Ultron doesn't feel like he is a fully fleshed out, powerful villain outside of his obvious abilities that he has. He doesn't feel like he is a character who is like, for instance, I'll give you an example. Loki, when he shows up in the Avengers, we've already seen him lose to Thor, but Loki's a character that we had an entire movie of getting to know and getting to respect his trickery and his ability to be, as a certain pundit might say, the great trickster in the business. Mm-hmm. And then when he shows up in Avengers, he's got this staff, and yeah, we've already seen him lose before, but at the same time, there's this investment in him, and there's not that level of investment in Ultron that maybe there would be if we had been able to get an idea of what was coming and not have to have it happen in such a short period of time. But I do agree with you. The quick turn of Ultron makes sense and works. I'm not really interested in babyface Ultron,
Yeah. I don't know. Ultron's a little bit different. It would have been difficult to really do something on the level of Loki or even Thanos, because you kind of can't have him as a physical presence until you're ready for him to turn. So you could have mentioned like the idea of the Ultron protocol, but in terms of really building Ultron himself, I really don't know what else they could have done.
Well, right. I'm not talking about like physically building. I mean building to the idea of Ultron.
Yeah.
It just kind of happens in this movie. There's no like, it's kind of where I thought they were going with Iron Man 3, but they never really did. And so it leaves me a little disappointed when I watch the movie. This, by the way, this entire sequence, I urge anyone that has this Blu-ray to watch the deleted scenes. This entire sequence is totally different in the deleted scene, and it's cut down from about a 10-minute scene to about a 5-minute scene here. And the version that is in the deleted scenes is much better. Joss Whedon, actually, on his director's commentary on the deleted scenes, is pretty clearly annoyed with a lot of the changes that were made to this movie, a lot of the cuts that were made to it. And it's already pretty long, in fairness. But I really, this in particular, this and the Thor bit that we'll talk about, would have helped the movie the most by staying in. Because what we get here in the deleted scene is a lot more backstory with Banner and Stark, talking about Ultron and talking about what Ultron is and what Ultron means to do. We also get much more banter between these characters that kind of establishes where they're heading for the rest of the movie. It just fleshes out the film a lot more if we had this full scene intact versus a cut down version that Joss was clearly disappointed in the actual final product.
Yeah, I can agree. The deleted version is definitely better, but I don't really have a huge issue with this scene personally. I thought it kind of got across the finer points in a quick fashion, because I know another issue that some people have with this movie was the runtime. It is up over 2 hours and 20 minutes, which some individuals don't like it when a movie goes that long. Still not fully recovered enough to sniff yet, so can't...
Yeah, I'm having my own issues with it.
Yep.
But, and there are bits in this movie that are not as interesting as others. So there's probably... But I think there were other areas to maybe cut from besides that. But yeah, so...
Here's Andy Serkis in a flash... a bit of foreshadowing for a movie that's just now about to come out. So 3 years ago, they were sowing the seeds for Black Panther.
Playing the noted Black Panther villain Ulysses Claw.
I don't know who he's playing, but I don't want to know who that woman in the photo was. That's for sure.
She ain't no Scarlet Witch, I can tell you that.
Good Lord.
Here we see. Now this is
Cool.
probably the best Quicksilver scene for me. I did like this part. This was cool. How he snuck up on him like that.
Yeah.
And now Claw is going to try to, talk his way out of the situation. And this is where Ultron does come off as very intimidating, actually. When Ultron shows up here and actually loses his cool and cuts off Claw's hand, I think it's an amazing scene.
And then his reaction to it, where he fake apologizes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Really, really good. So, while we're talking about things that caused some controversy with this film, let's get into what I talked about earlier, or mentioned earlier, never really delved into, the relationship between Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow and the Hulk in this movie, which is something that they met in the Avengers. If people recall, she is the one that actually finds Bruce Banner and brings him into the Avengers protocol. But there had never been any hint of this relationship between them in the MCU leading into this. Not a mention, not a reference, not a glance, not anything between them as far as a relationship. As far as we know, as MCU viewers, Bruce is still in love with Betty Ross, not Betty Brant, as I told Nick on the phone at some point this week, who's a totally different character. But at no point have we gotten any indication that he is no longer with her, that he's no longer interested in her, that he's no longer in love with her. That I can remember anyway, Nick. Maybe there is one in Avengers and I've forgotten it, but
Not that I'm aware of, no.
now we've got Scarlett Johansson's Black Widow, because I keep almost saying Scarlet Witch. Very confusing, by the way. Who has, in the last movie that we saw, Winter Soldier, that had Captain America and Black Widow in it, she was kind of flirting with Cap for a lot of the film, even though they end as friends or what have you. But now, suddenly, she and Bruce Banner have this sort of unspoken relationship with one another that other people talk about and hint around at, and they just won't kind of come out and say what's going on. And the first time I saw it, it kind of bugged me a little bit because it doesn't feel right. I don't feel like those characters are fits. The one thing that makes it, though, that kind of makes it work is they are such great actors, and both of them pull this relationship off as best they. To me, it's not, the way I put it is it's not great material, but they pull it off really, really well.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Probably should have been hinted at in some form or fashion, but they really didn't do anything with Mark Ruffalo for pretty much the entirety of Phase 2. You know, he kind of pops up. You know, he's there in the Avengers, and then he has that one cameo in the post-credit scene for Iron Man 3. And then other than that, they don't really have him play a role. I think, if I'm not mistaken, they were still a little confused as to what the actual, solo film rights were going to be and what they were allowed to do with him, as it relates to Universal and whatnot. So it felt like they had this idea to do this relationship, but didn't really have an effective means of building it, so they just didn't. They just threw it in here.
They just threw it in, yeah. And as a result, it feels forced, I think, to a lot of people.
The lack of build, that I can understand that criticism. That kind of bugs me too. But like you said, though, at a certain point, you just kind of got to evaluate what's here, and I feel like they do a really good job getting it over. Now, is it my preferred romance for both characters? No, but I can kind of understand the storytelling reasons for it, and I think they try to give that some character justification with that bedroom scene later in the film.
Yes, agreed. Which again is better in the deleted version, but
yes,
is
also
still
agreed.
But yeah, that should have been left in as well, and that would have cost nothing to leave in. That would have added what maybe.
Well, they didn't want to. I mean,
the
but
movie.
Specifically the way that scene resolves, though, they didn't want to have it resolve. They didn't want that relationship to be left in this film on a negative note. Apparently, they wanted to leave the door open on that for some reason. Whereas that scene kind of not necessarily closes the door, but certainly puts it in a more.
Oh, that's a great scene too.
a more negative outlook on it. Put it that way. Yeah, that was awesome.
That's a great scene where Quicksilver grabs the hammer. And anyway, I think the problem with that is though they still end it in a negative manner because she shoves Banner off of a platform just to turn him into the Hulk, which kind of symbolizes her moving on from her stance earlier in the film, I think.
I didn't necessarily take it that way. I just kind of took it as she's, at the end of the day, she has some feelings for this guy, but she's also the Black Widow, and, she's got a tactical mind that's always moving at a certain point. She knew the Hulk was needed and kind of went that direction.
Right.
This is great.
So
Thor, basically ignoring what she said.
I love the line, but I am mighty. Yes.
Oh, but then,
fortunately, I am mighty.
Turns out he is not.
Right, which I got to be honest, Nick, and I'm almost certain you're going to disagree with me on this. I thought the Cap stuff here was great. I thought the Black Widow stuff here was great, and I thought the Thor stuff was extremely confusing and not good.
Disagree completely.
I knew you would.
I mean,
you would, but
it's. I can see why it might be confusing to you, but it was for me. It was a glimpse at a Thor movie that will never exist.
To me, it's a glimpse of a Grant Morrison Thor movie, and
come on!
I don't understand the significance of anything. I don't know why I'm supposed to care. It wasn't interesting to watch. It was just people dancing and Heimdall saying weird things.
It's all of his. The implication is that because Heimdall is dead, the rest of Asgard has probably fallen with him, and they are all in Valhalla, the Hall of the Dead, and likely due to some failing of Thor.
Yeah, I don't know. I just thought it was confusingly shot and not well done. But that's just me.
Yeah, I disagree on both those points vehemently.
But yeah, so and this is an element of the film a lot of people had issues with, and I'm not. I will bring up later in the film, which Nick will also disagree with me on. I do agree with people that have issues with how Black Widow is treated in this movie, but I don't have any issues with this subplot of the Red Room and how she was.
I think the people's issue with the Red Room stuff is that she later on in the film, during that bedroom scene that I made reference to, she references the fact that she views herself as a monster because of the biological things that were done to her, and people think that it is her basically basing her entire self-worth on her ability to have children, which is a touchy subject for a lot of women, I would imagine. So
right, exactly.
I think that is the issue with it, rather than the Red Room stuff itself. Right,
and I think, especially in my most recent viewing, I did not view her statement of being a monster in that context. I don't think that she views herself as a monster because she can't have children. I think she views herself as a monster.
What said that's confusing, by the way? He just said that my eyes see you leading us to hell. I mean, that's...
No. What's confusing about it is what it all means and why, why Heimdall's eyes are the way they are, which he mentions, we're all dead, can you not see? So, yeah, it's just, I guess I just didn't get, why all these people are dancing and whatnot, that part didn't work for me because it's supposed to be a nightmare and everybody seems like they're having a good time until Heimdall confronts Thor,
Right, but Thor clearly recognized it as something that shouldn't be, and that's because it's Valhalla, so.
Right. But yeah, and then also there's just the fact that it's not interesting compared to the other two. I was like, okay, man. Thor stuff's just kind of strange.
And see, the Thor stuff to me is vastly more interesting than the Captain America thing.
Man, I think the Captain America one was my favorite of the three.
It's fine, but it's
extremely invested. I think because Cap's story of being lost in time and longing for that, he can never go home. He's the soldier that can never go home.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a more compelling story to me than God who is afraid that he might do damage in the future, because that's kind of everybody's deal in this cinematic universe. Iron Man's afraid he's going to hurt people. Bruce Banner's afraid he's going to hurt people. to a degree, Black Widow. Afraid she's going to hurt people. There's always like
the difference here being that Thor his fear is specifically that he is neglecting his responsibilities elsewhere because of his continued association and fascination
with the Avengers, right?
The Avengers and the people of Earth in general. And
I think that could have been better illustrated here, is what I'm getting at.
And I think that you don't need things outright stated to you sometimes.
No, I agree. I'm all about subtlety, but my issue is what I got from there is he's telling Thor he's a destroyer. And I don't think that does anything to create the idea that it's abdication of his throne or his position that is leading to the destruction. It indicates that he's doing the destroying himself.
I don't agree with that, but okay. We're being circular in nature.
Exactly, using circular logic. Anyway, so before you got dug in on your Thor defense, what were we talking about?
Before I got dug in on my Thor defense, before
you
got
brought it up,
dug in on the
Thor
criticism.
What about Heimdall is so confusing here? We were talking about something totally different at that point.
Well, you were saying you didn't understand anything he was saying, even though like he was speaking in plain language. I genuinely did not understand the criticism.
Again, you interrupted us when we were talking about something else, though.
I don't know.
I don't even remember what it was now.
Nope. Probably something irrelevant.
Probably something more interesting than Heimdall's boring speech to Thor.
In your opinion.
Which is why I said it. Anyway, here's the other best scene in the movie. Hulk versus the Hulkbuster, which is known as, in this movie, Veronica. Which is actually a reference to something, I think.
Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, I think that if I read correctly, I believe that Whedon put that in the script as a reference to Archie's Veronica because of Hulk's relationship with Betty.
Okay.
So Banner is the one, if you recall in this movie, Banner's the one that named the protocol Veronica.
So
and the reason that, yeah.
So the implication being that sometimes he's going to be in love with Betty Ross and sometimes he's going to want to have sex with the Hulkbuster armor and not really be able to choose between the two?
Presumably so.
Okay.
And just wait for the teenage version of the Hulkbuster armor that's going to show up on the CW.
This whole scene is great, by the way. The Hulk
it's
rampage,
awesome.
It's just... This was the moment in the trailer that like just blew everybody away when we got to see the Hulkbuster for the first time.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, dude. I mean, the Hulkbuster is something... I didn't read a lot of Iron Man comics when I was a kid, or a lot of Hulk comics, but when I did, I always seemed to grab comics where the Hulkbuster armor would show up. And, of course, it was in the cartoon as well. So, to see this was just awesome.
And this is cool. The replacement parts being launched towards Stark and him being able to basically... repair the Hulkbuster armor mid-fight. It's just a great... It's a great...
I particularly love in a moment when he gets him on the ground and does the piston thing.
Yeah.
Piston-like right hand.
Yes. There it is. Go to sleep. Go to sleep. Go to sleep.
Fist and fire! Fist and fire! Fist and fire!
Oh. And this is just an example of the great motion capture, because Ruffalo is doing the motion capture here, and every time like they actually show the Hulk's face and just the rage on his face, I love the way it looks, man. Because you kind of they're kind of selling that idea that Hulk really is getting, continually more pissed off, and as a result, just becoming that much more powerful.
Which it also makes me think to Ragnarok and how relatively depowered they had the Hulk in that one. Because here
he was kind of calm for the most part, most of the time.
Yeah, here Hulk is just a force of nature, just unstoppable. Even though he does get eventually stopped, but my God,
that was awesome.
Nick, I want you to compare. This is not fair, and this is petty of me to bring up, even, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want you to compare this to literally every scene in Justice League.
Why would I? I mean, that's pointless, Greg. But it does raise the point that this being one of the movies that a lot of people consider to be one of the weaker entries in the MCU, it's
2.5 years of difference.
Literally every scene in this movie is better than just about any scene in Justice League.
2.5 years of difference in CGI.
Yes.
And it looks worse.
Yes, not just worse, but Markedly worse.
And how do you beat the Hulk? Why don't you try dropping a building on him?
Oh my god, this is awesome.
This is just amazing. And the perpetual look on Stark's face of, oh god, what am I going to do next?
Yeah, like
you get the impression that if this doesn't work, he's just out of ideas.
Right. He's just going to give up. Well, fuck it.
I'll just buy the city and liquidate it. And it also goes to show what a growth in the Iron Man character from Iron Man 1. The Tony Stark in the first half of Iron Man 1 would never have gone through these efforts to save all these people.
No, never.
And that's what he's turned into now, this real hero. And here you see this brief glimpse of Hulk looking around and kind of realizing what's happened. And then, of course, an idiot human screws it up. Hulk appears to be calming down, and then someone fires or cocks their gun, and that's when you get that awesome knockout shot.
I'm having some technical difficulties over here, so you'll have to carry the.
Oh, no worries, no worries. We've talked about a lot. We've talked about a lot of the more controversial elements. Hulk and Black Widow. It didn't really work for me, but I thought the actors did a great job with what they had. Right. But yeah, I was talking about Black Widow, and you exactly brought up what a lot of people have an issue with. But I think I remember what we were talking about now. My interpretation of her line in that bedroom is more that she is a monster for the fact that, or what she was turned into, not because she can't have kids,
right? And
the fact that she was basically created to not be a human being.
I actually agree with that as well. I don't have a huge issue with pretty much anything Black Widow related in this film. I can understand what others might, but it doesn't really bother me, and that's the reasoning kind of I have for it as well. I think the reason that gets misconstrued is because, if I'm not mistaken, the line about her like not being able to have kids and the "I'm a monster" line come in such close proximity to one another that people made an association that wasn't necessarily meant to be one to one. I think it's one that kind of got overblown a little bit, but that's that's the nature of fandom in the modern era, it would seem. Exactly,
and it probably could have been spaced out better, but I agree with you. I never really viewed it that way, but I think what I do have an issue with in the movie with regards to Black Widow is I feel like she lacks agency in this one. We talked earlier about how in the first movie, Hawkeye kind of takes a backseat and is given a very passive role for most of the movie. And I feel that way about Black Widow here, because it feels like she does get some cool action scenes. I'm not going to deny that. She gets some really cool parts in their action scenes, but she doesn't drive her own narrative. Most of her narrative is spent around trying to seduce Bruce Banner or the Hulk, or being Clint Barton's friend who has an attachment to his kids, or being a damsel in distress who has to get rescued by Banner later in the film, or pushing Banner to turn him into the Hulk. But there's very little in the way of Black Widow actively doing things in the movie to help the team. She does gather intel. Granted, you brought that point up to me off microphone.
And she provides a key distraction to Ultron during the scene where he's trying to transplant himself into the organic body that winds up becoming the Vision's body. So she has she has some key role, or some bits here and there where she serves a key purpose. I think where I differ from you a little bit is I kind of view the Banner thing, to me. I think when Cap talks about in the early going that he's seen her flirt and that isn't that. To me, that kind of it does have some agency, because she's making a choice that a lot of people probably consider to be unconventional in Bruce Banner, and she is aggressively pursuing that choice. Whether others might see the value in it or not. And then, of course, on the damsel in distress thing, as you and I discussed off air, I don't really agree with that, because I kind of took that scene as much like, not to the degree of the Loki scene in the first one, where she kind of clearly plays Loki for information, but when she is captured by Ultron, she has that conversation with him, and pretty much immediately rebroadcasts his location, and my understanding is that she kind of knows his plan based on the fact that he's sitting there giving a bad guy soliloquy about the beauty of meteorites and stuff. So, I don't really think that. I think the damsel in distress thing is a little bit too harsh of a term for it.
And I stand by it because I don't view that scene the same way you do. I feel like there's a big difference in this one. And I think in this one, to me, she is not in control of that situation. Ultron's in control of that situation. I didn't view it as her outsmarting Ultron. I thought Ultron told her exactly what he wanted her to hear. And to me, I feel like there wasn't enough done. And I understand it's hard because there's so many characters here to deal with. But and ultimately, I thought I still liked her in the movie, absolutely. But I understand why people were disappointed with her role in this movie, because to me, in this movie, she feels like the least important member of the team to me. She feels like the one that...
I would argue Quicksilver, but that's fair, I guess.
She feels like the one that has the fewest heroic moments.
And see, I actually think that she and Thor, I know Thor has this cave thing coming up, but really, other than that, he hasn't had a ton to do thus far in this film, because in the first one, he kind of had Loki that was making him important, and in this one, I kind of feel like it's Stark and Banner and Cap that are driving the team. Thor is a huge part of the of all the action sequences, obviously. Well, sure, but
Thor also is the one that figures everything out, that goes off and figures out what they need to do to stop Ultron, that they need to create Vision. He's also the one that literally brings Vision to life.
True.
He's given, to me, he's given more than Widow. And Hawkeye, we didn't talk about Hawkeye's subplot here with his family. Some people don't like that either.
No, I like that.
And I love it.
I think that it makes him different.
You have to do something, exactly,
from the rest of the team.
You have to do something in a team where you've got a human character alongside these gods. You have to do something, especially a character that hasn't had a standalone movie. I mean, our only interaction with Hawkeye has been through the lens of these other characters. You have to do something to give him a unique characteristic, a unique function on the team. And so having him as the family man and having him as the guy with this secret life away from the team, it works, because honestly, the rest of the team, they don't really have secret lives. They have different lives, but Stark's a public identity. Cap's a public identity. I don't really know about Black Widow. I guess she's technically a public identity.
Yeah, because she testified before Congress, remember, at the close of Winter Soldier, and basically called them all out for being ineffective.
Yeah, so having Hawkeye be the one that actually does have this secret life makes him different, makes him unique, and gives him, by the way, to me, there's more stakes in this one for him, because in the first Avengers movie, if Hawkeye gets killed by the Chitauri, who really cares, right?
Right.
And now you have something to care about.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Hey, pro wrestling announcer Kevin Kelly here. I want to make sure you are all subscribed to all the great feeds here at Place to Be Nation. It's really easy to do. Just head to iTunes or your preferred podcatcher app today and search and subscribe to the Place to Be Nation wrestling feed, which of course includes the full archives of the Kevin Kelly Show, the Place to Be Nation pod feed, and the Pro Wrestling Only feed. Subscribe, listen, and then rate us and leave feedback today. And be sure to give Justin your true thoughts. I mean, don't hold back. After all, he is kind of a jerk. Just listen to Scott.
Place to Be Nation's JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have a ton of great podcasts available to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlayStation.com, and we offer those to you on 3 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we bring you the Mothership, the original Place to Be podcast, as well as Main Event, Lucha Afterground, and our monthly pay-per-view reaction shows, as well as the Our Vantage Point podcast and Jeff Learns Wrestling. In addition to these full-length shows, we also deliver quick-hit pod blasts on topics old and new.
Over on the Pro Wrestling Only feed, we dive deep inside the wrestling business with a stacked army of experts leading the way. The feed features potpourri shows such as This Week in Wrestling, Greetings from Allentown, Psychology is Dead, Puro Puri, Stacy and Elliot's Bogus Journey, and the Military Industrial Suplex. We also have shows that focus intently on certain topics like Letters from Center Stage, Space City, and NWA Classics On Demand Adventure, Through the Years, Strong Style History, Strong Style Story, and Mount Olympus. Plus, the feed has the full archives of legendary shows like Titans of Wrestling, Where the Big Boys Play, Letters from Kayfabe, and much more. And on our popular Place to Be Nation Pop podcast feed, we offer such great shows as the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, Rank and File, PTB and Dadcast, Go Home in a Box, NBA Team, and Lucha Undead, as well as a veritable podcast heaven for comics fans with the Hard-Traveling Fanboys, Sellers Points, Todd Weber's Conversation, Geek and Sassy, and Imaginary Stories podcasts.
You can find all of these current shows plus archives of our past podcasts, including The Kevin Kelly Show, as well by subscribing to all of our feeds on iTunes. And while there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlacementNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth stretch projects and more. Be sure to support our site by using PlacementNation.com/Amazon when shopping online, and download our free PTB Vintage Vault Refresh ebooks via the links on our site. We also want to thank our friends at Bonehead's Wing Bar in West Warwick, Rhode Island, and Fall River, Massachusetts, TheHistoryOfWrestling.com, and Scott Keats' Blog of Doom. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr as well. PlacementNation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
I would getting into that Mark Ruffalo shirtless scene.
I'm trying to figure out why my subtitles aren't working, but in any event.
Yeah, so here's the scene we were talking about in the bedroom.
Right.
And again, the acting is what makes it, because both of these people, both Ruffalo and Johansson, sell it extremely well and make you buy into the story they're trying to tell. At least for me, they did.
Yeah, I agree.
I particularly like how Ruffalo, his reaction at the end of the scene when, or maybe I'm thinking of the deleted version, when he says, "What about the dead?" and she says they're dead, and then he says, "Not for me, never," which is a callback to earlier in the film.
Right.
His acting is just, both of them are brilliant
they're
here.
both great.
And her kind of shooting daggers and everything. So, I feel like we've covered most of this. We haven't talked a lot about Chris Evans as Cap, but I mean, it kind of goes without saying.
How great he is.
He's Captain America. You know, we've put him on that pedestal with Chris Reeve, with Robert Downey Jr., with Gal Gadot now as Wonder Woman. There are certain people that just are their characters. I would put Hemsworth in that category now.
I mean, a lot of these characters now in the Avengers. I mean, if you sat down and made a list of like the top 10 lead performances in a superhero film, how many of them would be Avengers? I mean, it's incredible at this point. You know,
it's hard. And I'm going to give some credit to someone that I don't think gets it enough, and that's Scarlett Johansson, because it's hard for me to go back and read old Marvel comics sometimes.
Yes,
I have a trade
with the broken,
Spider-Man,
the broken English and like the Russian accent written into the comics and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, rough. I agree.
It's hard for me because I have this Spider-Man trade from the 80s. It's a good trade, but when I read Natasha's dialogue in it, damn, it's hard to get through, because it's like I can't imagine it now. Like I just want her to talk the way that Scarlett talks, you know. And that's a credit to her. She has completely redefined that character for me.
Agreed.
And you know, all of these characters have. The only one that kind of hasn't, and it's no knock on him, but it's just because the role is so, I guess, malleable in my mind, is Ruffalo as Banner, because he's great. He's amazing.
Well,
but I think I've kind of liked all of the Banners to this point.
And I was about to say, unlike the other Avengers, there have been other successful
right.
There has been other successful incarnation besides, you know, whereas these guys, I don't think anybody is sitting here and talking about Salinger or whatever his name is and really holding up his Steve Rogers.
Right.
I don't think anybody is referencing the Thor that made that one episode cameo in the Incredible Hulk back in the day and comparing him
what
to
about
Hemsworth.
Vincent D'Onofrio in God, what was that? My Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead or whatever.
Oh my God, I had forgotten that he would have it. But yeah, so I mean, like, these guys have kind of defined these characters because they're the only ones to really
Stepmom's
have
an alien.
portrayed them in a major way. So
yeah, you're absolutely right. I also love that scene of Cap ripping the log apart. I don't even know why I like that, but
Stark's got a good line coming up here in a minute where he tells him not to take any off his pile.
Not to take any off his pile. Yeah. Yeah. Just great stuff. We also meet with Nick Fury's here, and I love it. I love the appearance of Nick Fury. He's someone that I'm feeling a missing presence from in the MCU these days. I'm hoping
I'm very excited about his involvement in the Captain Marvel movie that's coming up. I don't know if you've read much about that.
I haven't actually.
Captain Marvel, because it takes place in the 90s, is a prequel. So we're actually going to see.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
we're going to see early Nick Fury with both eyes, and apparently we're actually going to see how he loses the eye in the events of the Captain Marvel movie.
Ah, very interesting. Yeah, I'll take all the Nick Fury I can get.
Yes, apparently he's going to play a fairly major role in Captain Marvel, so I'm looking forward to that.
So. We've gotten into a lot of this. We've been into the controversies, and I think I said, because I will admit that this is a movie that gets a little bit lower on my list every time I watch it, but I still love it. I absolutely love it. And I think for both of us, you're higher on it than I am, but I think both of us would say that this is a movie that gets a lot of undue criticism.
I agree.
I watched this last night, or night before last. And I was just thoroughly entertained. Right. There was never a point in this movie where I was bored, really. Maybe little snippets here and there, but I was invested. I cared about the characters. I didn't care about all of the subplots, but I cared about most of them.
What I've come to realize about it is it plays into how I describe myself when it comes to superhero comics as something of an emotional sadist. I just love seeing these characters that I love miserable. And this whole stretch of the movie where everybody is sad and depressed and like doubting themselves, that is just right up my 1980s comics loving heart. I mean, right up my alley. I love that aspect of it. One other thing I guess we should talk about, since we're about to see it right now in terms of controversies, is this cave sequence, which is one of the areas where I can kind of actually agree with some of the criticisms that's been given, because as it actually happens in the finished film, doesn't really make a ton of sense.
No. It feels in the movie tacked on, forced, Deus Ex Machina, if you will.
Yeah.
When Thor shows up to ignite the Vision, it feels like it's going somewhere when you're watching the movie, and then it skips the journey and gets right to the destination.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, I agree.
And for people that will put that on Joss, please don't, because if you watch again those deleted scenes that we were talking about earlier, the other scene I was referencing is the unedited full scene of Thor and the Doctor, Selvig, going to this cave and communicating with the Norns, which are the Norse version of the Greek fates, if you will. And it's much better than you would think, and it actually makes the scene in the end make sense, because Thor is able to communicate with these entities that possess his body and talk to Selvig and answer all these questions about what's to come. And this is how Thor figures out about the Infinity Stones. It's how he finds out about the destruction that will be wrought by the Infinity Stones, etc. I really think that needed to be in. Wouldn't you agree, Nick?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, really, the deleted scenes, there's only 5 or 6 of them? And I can't really see a justification, other than perhaps the one deleted scene with Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch handing out stuff in Sokovia. I can't really see a justification for dropping any of the other ones.
I agree. I was thinking about that last night after I watched them.
What would 8 minutes, really have made in the course of things? I don't.
That was my standpoint, Nick. I understand cutting things for brevity, but there wasn't that much. It wasn't. I mean, like I said, I watched them last night back to back to back, and with the exception of the Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch scene, which I can understand why that was dropped. even if it did remove a little bit of the context for some of the stuff a little bit later. The Sokovians that we meet don't mean anything when we finally meet them. But the other scenes, I mean, like you said, like 8, maybe 10 minutes added onto the film wouldn't have killed anybody, in my opinion.
Except for maybe David Sunday. He would have He would have done the Seinfeld gif at that point and just walked away.
Yep, gotta go pee. Which I can relate to after sitting through the bladder buster that was Last Jedi. I had to pee, but I didn't want to leave. the great conundrum. But yes, I totally agree with you on that, and that was a sequence in the film that definitely doesn't make a lot of sense. However, again, doesn't really affect my enjoyment overall of the movie. It dings it a little bit, but it doesn't hurt it much. I mean, when Thor finally does show up again, it's still a great scene. He still does a great job of acting it out, and all of the stuff with the Vision is great. Like, once he comes to life, they managed to add this new character that instantly I actually care about. And there's this mystery element to him for people that don't know the Avengers about who is this guy? Can they trust him? And it just works. They do a great job of throwing him in the mix, adding to the team dynamic. And everybody feels like they're part of the team. Like I said, I do think Black Widow was a little bit underserved, but we've seen her in the last movie, and we know how much these characters mean to each other and how much they're all vital to the team. And I think in introducing particularly Scarlet Witch and Vision, you can see that they can each contribute to the team going forward as the movie ends. So, anything else that we haven't touched on so far? I feel like we've hit
that closing action sequence I kind of want to talk about, because I feel like it is a standout. Probably not to the level of the Battle of New York, but I don't think that really, outside of maybe some stuff in Winter Soldier and Civil War, that the MCU in general has approached anything like the Battle of New York. But it's a damn fine action sequence, especially that moment when Scarlet Witch can feel that Quicksilver is dead, and she vaporizes all the Ultron drones around her, just completely turns them to dust. Just, there's so many cool moments in that action scene, getting to see these various Avengers, getting to see Vision phase through things and stuff like that. Just, that whole closing action bit is just a tour de force in terms of visual effects and engaging action sequences. Yeah,
I really like that, even though I would say it's the third best action scene in the movie.
Man, I think it's, what are you saying is better? The opener and Hulkbuster.
Versus,
okay, yeah, I could probably agree with that.
Hulkbuster and the opener. I think
it's on par with the opener,
I think my problem with it is it does feel a little repetitive. The kind of a bunch of things that look exactly the same to each other getting blasted away by the Avengers and stuff like that. And the other thing about the scene that does bug me a little bit is it feels like a level on a video game, that where they all have to surround the thing and keep the bad guys from getting to it. It just feels like that was made for a video game that never got made, But but it's still a good scene, no doubt.
Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver face turn, where they realize what Ultron's true intentions are. And
Ultron tries to explain to them, it's not that bad an idea. The human race dies. What's so bad about it, Yeah,
everybody sucks.
And I think he's got a point, Nick. I think he's got a point.
He raises some valid points. Much like Mr. Potter, he has some positive things to offer.
Are you suggesting that there's a lineage of some kind between
I'm not
Potter
suggesting
and
that there's a lineage. I'm just saying, at face value, you want to discount everything they say, but when you really get down into the motivations and the reasonings behind it, I think they have something to offer here.
You said I was a warped, frustrated old man. Well, what are you now but a warped, frustrated young man?
Was he wrong?
He wasn't. He was warped and frustrated and young, yes. All of that was accurate. So you have to give him that. Even though I think your Potter sympathies might run a little deeper than you indicate. But
what does that
mean? You have long been a defender of Potter, and now you're a defender of Ultron. Which admittedly I am too. I mean, I'm just saying Ultron, if you're going to look at the world and you were going to say, what's the biggest problem with the world? I think your answer could probably be summed up as people.
People, yes, I agree completely. Hey, one other thing, I know we never make it to any of these because we don't watch the entire movie, but holy crap, that mid-credit scene.
Oh, good Lord. Good Lord. Like, that was the other thing. We didn't talk about why we had that giant grin on our faces when we were leaving the theater. It wasn't just the movie itself, which was amazing.
Yes.
It was the boner-inducing Thanos scene in the post-credits.
Yes.
Holy crap.
Yes. Only one mid-credit, only one credit scene in this one. I think it may be the last Marvel movie to only have one of those.
Yes.
But it makes up for that by making that one arguably the best mid or post-credit scene of all time. Like, it's simple. It is one shot, but it is the shot you have been waiting to see, since the Marvel Cinematic Universe really took off.
Basically, I was prepared at that point to quit my job and just camp outside the movie theater and wait for the next Avengers movie. At that point,
right?
It was just.
And what's crazy is we're
incredible.
almost there, Greg. I mean, it's not that far away. So.
We are getting right up on it, and so. Gosh, there's just so much to love about this movie. The action scenes are phenomenal, as you mentioned. I didn't want to sell that last scene short at all. There were a couple things about it that I thought could have weren't the best, but it was still awesome. It was still a great scene. The acting is phenomenal. The character development is great. The dialogue is tremendous in this movie. It's like I always say, they can just keep making Avengers movies as far as I'm concerned with this cast. Everybody's like, well, it's time for so-and-so to move on. Not to me.
No,
I hope RDJ and the rest of them stick around and keep doing this.
No, obviously I wish they would as well, but we know that, they are actors and they don't like to get typecast, and they like to stretch their boundaries from time. Man, Cap just fights so awesome in these movies. I mean, just the way he moves is just fantastic in these films.
Yep.
But yeah, I would love for him to make them forever, and I think there's a possibility when we see these guys pop up, post Avengers 4, but who knows what the future holds. But that's a pretty cool little bit there, dropping around on the motorcycle.
Yes, it is.
A good action scene too that I had kind of.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I was about to say I forgot about this one, but yeah, every vehicular action scene in the MCU is great.
Yes,
without exception. Everyone, the Civil War one, the Winter Soldier one. They're all great.
Speaking of which, I can't wait for Black Panther. I saw for the first clip from it online the other day, and he has like a camouflage like James Bond car he's driving around, and it looks incredible. Can't wait for some of the chase scenes we're going to see in that one. That was cool, by the way. Black Widow driving the motorcycle with the shield on the front. Maybe something of a nod to the 1990 Captain America movie.
Mm-hmm. And the old Cap cycle from the back in the day in the comic.
I forget about that. Yep.
Yeah, everybody had a themed vehicle, even if it didn't make sense for them to have one back in the day.
Agreed.
Like the Thanos copter, which I doubt we'll see in Infinity War, but you never know.
I doubt that as well. But then again, we're not really seeing the helmet, so maybe we're just going to see, dick-headed Thanos flying around in a Thanos copter.
Dickhead. Woo! There's a reference. That's a good movie too. The other thing I like about these Ultron robots is just there is this sense that they're just endless. You know what I mean? Like I like the fact that every time they knock down one or two, like 6 more pop up in their place.
And they're very that scene just right there where they were climbing up the Quinjet. They almost move like animals more than they do like people or robots. They were climbing like this very fast, rapid, like monkey-like fashion or something like that. I think that's cool that Ultron kind of moves and operates much like a human being, but his drones kind of move and operate more like animals. It's just a neat visual distinction there.
And there's a great line that he tells to Cap, and he's like, "I'm already there." Because basically Ultron's everywhere. He's not just this centralized physical thing.
Right.
And he's trying to become that through the Vision body, but it doesn't work out. So But yeah, I guess we can kind of wrap this thing up now. We've been talking about it for a while, but
Yeah.
Age of Ultron is a movie that I admittedly don't like as much now as I did a couple years ago, but I still love it. And to me, it's still a great example of a superhero team up movie and how you do it, and how you continue to develop characters and push them forward. And in my opinion, I think it doesn't get enough credit for pushing these characters in challenging directions and different directions.
I think that's the thing that I think I appreciated about it more than a lot of people do, is that, you know, in the first Avengers film, and don't get me wrong, I love the first Avengers film. I think it's outstanding.
Yep.
But the appeal there is seeing these characters really interact for the first time and getting to that moment of the team coming together. And there is nothing that you're going to be able to do in this film that is going to match that moment in the first Avengers movie where you kind of see them all standing back to back and they do the circular pan. You know, it's not possible to reach that level of emotional satisfaction again. And so instead of seeking to go for that feel-good, fist-pumping moment, Joss takes it in a different direction and kind of seeks to dig into these characters a little bit deeper and how their, you know, interactions with one another are affecting each other individually. And I think that's the aspect of it I appreciate so much, is that it had a tougher task in front of it than the first Avengers movie did, and I think it succeeds on almost every level it attempts to.
Absolutely, yeah. I agree. It pushes the envelope. It shows us, and I think it does. I think it probably got a little more, maybe a little bit more, a little bit bigger, maybe than Joss originally imagined it to be. But I do think that it succeeded in his ultimate goal of telling a more personal story, because particularly with those characters of Black Widow, Hawkeye, Captain America, even Banner, and especially Stark, it's a more personal stakes type story than we got in the Avengers, the first movie. So while it doesn't have that level of consistency and it doesn't reach quite the same highs, it comes pretty damn close. You know, it's in the same ballpark to me, and that's saying a lot, because I think extremely highly of the Avengers. So definitely recommend this movie. Recommend all these movies, honestly, but this is definitely one that you should check out if you haven't seen it. Even if you've seen it and maybe you didn't like it and you haven't watched it in a while, give it a shot. I think particularly with the benefit of time and hindsight, I think it's better than it gets credit for. Maybe not as great as I once gave it credit for, but certainly a movie worthy of being watched and being given a fair shake.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly agree with that, even though I'm going to have it probably a little bit higher than most. I think it's... I don't want to give away too much. We'll discuss exactly where I think it rates in relation to the other Avengers movie here in a moment.
Now, here's where we need to get into our rankings, Nick. And here's the problem. I don't remember our rankings, because it's been 2 months, I guess, since we've done this.
Well, are you on your computer?
I am not. I am on the iPhone 7 Plus right now watching the film. Because otherwise I wouldn't be able to watch the film.
Gotcha. All right. Well, would you like to remind you of what your rankings are?
Yes, that would be wonderful.
So do we want to do our rankings or the critical rankings first?
Let's do the critical rankings first, actually.
Okay, and just to remind people, this is a combination we've taken of the Rotten Tomato critical score, the Rotten Tomato fan score, and the Metacritic score. All three of those are, of course, on a scale of 1 to 100, meaning that each film can score a maximum of 300 points. So should I go front to back or back to front on this one?
Let's go back to front on this one.
All right, so remember, this is only the MCU entries that we have watched to this point.
That's right.
So, as of right now, in last place, you have Thor: The Dark World with 196 points. And let's see, I want to count something real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So this is the 11th MCU entry to this point. Anyway, Thor: The Dark World, 11th with 196 points. The Incredible Hulk, 10th with 199 points. Iron Man 2, 8th with 201 points. Thor, 7th with 210 points. Iron Man 3, 6th with 219 points. Captain America, the First Avenger, 5th with 220 points. Avengers, Age of Ultron, 4th with 221 points. And I must have miscounted.
See,
2, 3,
no,
11. Yeah, 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Yeah, okay, so 5th, Avengers, Age of Ultron with 221 points. Now, you were going to say something.
I was going to say, it's better received than the perception of it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is I think there have been numerous MCU movies since this that have been better received that kind of have pushed it back further and further in the pack. But at this point, critically, it's a top 5 MCU movie, a top 5 out of 11. So firmly in the upper half, although it narrowly edges out Captain America: The First Avenger by a single point, and Iron Man 3 by just 2 points. So most, the critical consensus kind of seems to be it's on the same level as Iron Man 3 or First Avenger, and I certainly don't have it anywhere close to there myself. But anyway, moving on to the top 4. Big gap here between Age of Ultron and the number 4 entry. Captain America: The Winter Soldier with 251 points. At number 3, The Avengers with 252 points. At number 2, Guardians of the Galaxy with 259 points. And at number 1, still the reigning champion, Iron Man with 264 points.
Very good. Now, refresh me on my rankings going into this.
You want them top to bottom or bottom
top to bottom? Will make it easier for me.
Okay. Top to bottom, you have Captain America: The Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
The Avengers.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
Iron Man 3.
Yep.
Iron Man.
Yep.
Captain America: The First Avenger. Thor.
Yep.
Thor: The Dark
Yep.
World, and The Incredible Hulk.
Whew. I am going to slot Age of Ultron. I'm going to slot Age of Ultron in. God, it's so hard for me to separate the Iron Man movies. I'm going to separate... hell with it. I'm going to put Age of Ultron in right below Iron Man 1.
Right below Iron Man 1, okay.
Yep. So that should have it as...
All right,
Winter Soldier.
So your new ranking is Captain America: The Winter Soldier at number 1.
Right. Yep.
The Avengers at number 2.
Yep. That's still a tough one.
Guardians of the Galaxy at number 3.
Yep.
Iron Man 2 at number 4. Iron Man 3 at number 5. Iron Man at number 6. Age of Ultron at 7. Captain America: The First Avenger at 8. Thor at 9. Thor: The Dark World at 10. And The Incredible Hulk at 11.
Yeah,
it
feels weird to have Age of Ultron that low because I love the movie, but it's just too hard for me to separate the Iron Man movies right now in my mind because I don't know, it's tough to do. You know what? The hell with it. Move Age of Ultron up ahead of the Iron Man movies.
All 3 of them?
Yeah.
All right, that's certainly a unique opinion to have. Hold on, now I've got to figure out how to do that on the spreadsheet. All right, so now you're saying that you have Captain America: The Winter Soldier at 1, The Avengers at 2, Guardians of the Galaxy at 3, Avengers: Age of Ultron at 4, Iron Man 2 at 5, Iron Man 3 at 6, Iron Man at 7, Captain America: The First Avenger at 8, Thor at 9, Thor: The Dark World at 10, and The Incredible Hulk at 11.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's weird because the hard part for me is, to be honest, I feel like I probably enjoyed the Iron Man movies maybe a little bit more, but it's so hard for me to separate them, and I can't put this behind all 3 of them. I just can't. I cannot justify it. So... because I love this movie so much in its own right. It's just hard to do. These rankings are very difficult as we go along.
I agree. Give me just a moment to figure out where exactly I want mine. And all right, I think I've got it. So I'm gonna go bottom to top just because I can, and I'm gonna start at number 11. I have Iron Man 3 at the bottom. You and I, of course, have had our say on that one long ago. I've got the Incredible Hulk at 10. I've got Thor: The Dark World at 9. I've got Iron Man 2 at 8. I've got Captain America: The First Avenger at 7. I've got Thor at 6. I've got Iron Man at 5, and then it gets tough. But I'm gonna go Guardians of the Galaxy at 4.
Oh.
I'm going to go The Avengers at 3.
Wow.
And I'm going to go Age of Ultron at 2 and Winter Soldier at 1.
Now that is certainly, you talk about me having a unique opinion on it.
Oh, I know that. But, the thing is, when we came into this, when we started doing this last year, before the rewatches, I would have had Age of Ultron number 1. And I think Winter Soldier just is, this... Winter Soldier is like the epitome of a movie that just gets better every time you watch it.
Yes, I agree.
It's incredible.
I agree. If we had done this list after this movie came out, 3 years ago at this point, I would have had this at number 1 or 2, right. Absolutely, with the Avengers. But I think for me, each time I watch it, this one drops a little bit lower. And if I watch it again, I'll probably have it below all the Iron Man movies. But for now, I do love the movie, and so that's okay with it. But man, I just have a hard time. I just have a hard time putting it above the Avengers.
I love the Avengers. I mean, you can love them both, Greg. That's what I'm. That's what
certainly. I think we obviously we've already talked about that. We love all these movies. We're splitting hairs at this point, but I'm just. This is a great moment, but yeah, the I don't know. That's sacred ground, man. Sacred ground.
It is. But that's the esteem I hold this movie in. The James Spader of it all.
See, I have my Iron Man 2 and 3, and you have your Age of Ultron.
That's true. And next month should be interesting because the next time we get together, or not next month, because we're taking a month off to do a special Black Panther theme month. But when we come back to this in March, we should have another interesting episode because it'll be another film that we have a difference of opinion on. Although I will say, my opinion on Ant-Man isn't nearly as passionate as my opinion on Iron Man 3. It'll be one of those things where...
And I will go ahead and spoil it for everyone a little bit. Ant-Man 3, what you were just talking about with Winter Soldier, Ant-Man 3 is one of those movies for me that gets better every single time I watch it. Ant-Man 1 is a movie that gets better every time.
Now, see, that's interesting, and I'm interested to see how it holds up on rewatch, because I think that's probably, of all the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, that might be the one I've watched the least. I've probably only seen it twice, once in theaters and once subsequently on home video, and I think the only other ones that I've watched fewer times than that would be Doctor Strange or one of the ultra recent ones. So, of the ones that have been out for a while, that's easily the one I've seen the least. So, perhaps my opinion will change, but it just speaks to the fact that one appeals to a different taste that you have in film that I don't necessarily have as much as you do. You are more of a comedy fan than I am.
Right. This is true. So,
was that your impression of Scott Lang's Russian friend who sits in the van the entire time?
Oh, the guy that's played by the dude from The Dark Knight?
David Dastmalchian is the actor's name.
How has he never played in a World War II movie?
I don't know. Probably because he looks all pasty and he's just weird looking.
Well, exactly. You ever seen the Nazis? Good Lord.
They were a weird looking bunch. And hey, I got an idea, Greg. How about we make it an executive decision, since we've talked about this movie for almost 2 hours, and just release this podcast as a one-off instead of having another hour-long segment to end the show.
Yeah, but what about letting people know our thoughts on the DC shows?
Let's do that right now and then call it a night.
All right. So last week, ladies and gentlemen, we had. I guess we can just insert a commercial break at some point in here, retroactively.
Yeah, Todd's a wizard. He'll figure it out.
So we had the return of the CWDC shows to their new, so the second half of the season, I should say.
Yep.
And that included Monday night's episode of Supergirl, which picked up on the threads of the mid-season finale of Rain. The character of Rain has beaten Supergirl into a coma, as we learn. And she is kind of stuck in her own mind, trying to get out of that. Meanwhile, Rain is instituting a reign of terror over National City.
All and that for that. So she's just terrorizing the men, women, and children of National City, striking fear to the hearts of criminals by threatening to kill them and whatnot, and everybody else if they get out of line. So Mon-El and what's her name, Mon-El's wife, I don't know if that's Saturn Girl or not. Maybe I'm pretty sure it's Saturn Girl.
They're being, people are trying to talk them in.
We best not misquote something about the Legion, lest our show be accused of being a certain type of blaze that is set in a certain trash holding receptacle.
Indeed, that would be the worst of all fates. We also may be the victim of some editorial interference from Mr. Weber as well, if we do such. So I am going to leave the Legionnaire characters to another person and just say that Mon-El and
Mon-El's hot wife. How about that?
Are being talked into joining the fight, or trying to,
right?
And eventually decide to, and they get involved in a great sequence with where they attack Rain to the tune of Bon Jovi's "Living on a Prayer," as they and Jean Jones, the Martian Manhunter, attack. And we also meet Brainiac 5 in this episode.
Yeah.
Who they show with practical, and I got to be honest, Nick, when this episode started, I thought I wasn't going to like Brainiac 5 at all, because I laughed out loud and I said, "Ha ha ha, that looks dumb."
Yeah,
and then as it went along, it grew on me, and the actor was so freaking good.
I was about to say the portrayal is great. I still, I understand, the reason to do it ultra practically the way they did it, but
it looks better like this than it would have if they'd tried CGI.
And that's why I say I understand why they did it. It's just it does take a moment to get into.
It's jarring at first.
It is not this awesomely rendered version of Brainiac that you would have in your head. And I understand that Brainiac 5 and Brainiac are two different characters. I get that. Please don't accuse me of being a blaze in a large trash holding receptacle.
Yes, but Brainiac 5 here is, but it ends up, and maybe that's the idea, because it should be jarring, because it's jarring to Kara when she first sees him. But his little interactions with Kara, the portrayal is so good that I was able to get over the look instantly, and now I think it's kind of cool that they went practical on it. And I got to say, I thought this was a great episode. I really enjoyed it from beginning to end. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah, I thought it was a really good episode. I don't know that I would call it great, but I was mostly entertained the entire time, and I do worry that they went to the Kara and Rain fight so early and then went back to it again. I don't know that we can see Kara and Rain fight like every week for the next 7 weeks. I think I think they got to figure out what is going to stretch the show out to the.
I know how to do it. I know how to do it.
How's that?
I think you need to put the Intercontinental title on the line and have them fight each week.
There you go. You do love the Intercontinental title. Somehow you'll work Jeff Jarrett into all of this, I'm sure.
Absolutely. And the one thing I've learned over the years of watching WWE is you can just have the same guys wrestle each other every week on TV, and it has no effect on pay-per-view buys at all.
I enjoyed the episode as well, in short.
Yes, really good episode. So, Tuesday night brought us The Flash, which was the most anticipated for me of the mid-season premieres, of how they follow up on the shocking cliffhanger of the mid-season finale of Barry being framed for murder, framed for the murder of Clifford DeVoe, yes, the thinker, and
the stinker.
And the stinker, as DeVoe has swapped bodies into this younger, less interesting version of himself.
Oh, now we're earning kudos from the manager, Todd Weber. He'll be a fan of this take.
So this episode picks us up during the trial of Barry Allen. And importantly for us, this won't mean anything to Nick, but for those of us who watched Human Target, Mark Valley, who played Christopher Chance on Human Target to such great fanfare, plays the district attorney in this episode. And it's the first time I have ever seen him play a villain in a movie, unless you count Superman as a villain in Dark Knight Returns, which I don't. He did the voice of Superman in that, but he was awesome here. I loved him in this episode. The whole trial, everything involving Barry in this episode, I thought was excellent.
Yes, I agree.
The only parts of this episode that didn't work for me were the parts involving the new DeVoe, because
he can't act.
He's just not a good actor.
Like, I understand that he's pretty to look at, and of course, that's enough to keep you employed on the CW. See James Olsen as a prime example of that. But he's just not a good actor, especially like. And maybe it wouldn't be so noticeable if they hadn't gone from such a unique and chilling and dynamic performance with the guy who was playing it previously. It is a massive drop off. Maybe he will get better. Let's hope, but not a strong start for this new DeVoe.
Agreed. But overall, really liked the episode because Grant Gustin's awesome.
Yes, so. I agree with that as well. I was a big fan of this episode, despite the flaws that it had.
Now, that leads us into the premiere of the newest addition to the CW DC lineup, Black Lightning.
Wow.
A show that I think both of us were perhaps somewhat trepidatious about.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to watch it because it's a DC show on CW, and they haven't really steered us wrong to this point, but I can't say that I was, overly passionate about following the development of it. I didn't really pay much attention to most of it while it was in development. I didn't really know what the show was going to be about, other than I knew the basic plot line of a retired superhero who happened to be a father, and all that. But I had no idea what the show was actually about or what it was going to be, what the tone of it was going to be. And man, I was blown away, taken completely by surprise with what we got.
Absolutely. And full disclosure, I don't know that I've ever read a Black Lightning comic in my life.
No, from my understanding, he was a character that DC kind of made a big deal about in the 70s whenever, the civil, because it was kind of in vogue to do so at the time. But it's a character that, unlike Jon Stewart and some of the other African-American characters in comics, that hasn't really been served well in recent years. Like, hasn't really been used by a lot of people. I mean,
he was in the Outsiders book back in the 2000s, right. But, I never really read that one either, honestly, so...
Yeah, you could make the argument that he's, in the comics anyway, like one of the lesser high-profile, African-American superheroes. There are numerous other examples that you would probably think of first, like I said, Jon Stewart, John Henry Irons as Steel,
Mr. Terrific, obviously. So numerous examples of guys that you probably could have chosen to do a show about, but they went with Black Lightning, and man, I was, again, just blown away by this. I completely agree. This... After thinking it over, it was easily the only CW first episode that comes close to it would be The Flash.
The Flash, yeah. And that's not even really fair because The Flash had been set up, kind of had that backdoor pilot on Arrow. I mean, in terms of introducing a character in the first episode and making you
was the best
care about him almost instantly. This is far and away the best. Not even close.
Yep. It was amazing. It's one of the best pieces of TV I've watched all year. It was, at least all season, I should say. It was as good as, I'll go ahead and say it. To me, it was as good as the pilot of Luke Cage, which I thought was awesome. As you know, Nick, it made my list of the 5 best episodes in the Netflix Marvel universe. But I would put this completely on par with that. It was amazing. The acting was amazing. The writing was amazing. The direction was amazing. The effects were amazing. But honestly, the effects, I didn't even care about the effects because we talked about this off the air. this feels like the most grounded in the real world of any of the comic book shows that we've seen.
Which is insane, considering it's a guy with lightning powers going out and shocking
Right.
people. Like, you would think Arrow would feel more grounded than this, and Arrow,
Right, but
early
Arrow
on
is
had
grounded,
a grounded feel, but it always felt like it felt superhero grounded, if that makes sense.
Yes, it's Batman grounded.
Yeah.
It's grounded in the way that a Batman movie is grounded, which is to say grounded in a hyper-realized world. You know what I mean?
This feels like it could exist in the real world, is the way I would describe it. I was just not expecting what we got. You know, I don't want to say too much because you haven't finished the season yet, but... And this is coming from someone who ultimately enjoyed Luke Cage, but one episode in, I feel like this is trying to tell a similar story to what Luke Cage told, and I gotta say, I'm already way more invested in this than I was at virtually any point of Luke Cage. This was next level, in my opinion. It completely took me off guard.
Yeah, it blew me away. The performances, the two villains were both compelling, but particularly the more direct villain right now,
Lala,
the sub boss, Lala. Yeah, I can't really describe it to people. You have to watch this episode, though. It was.
And how about the two daughter characters who very easily could have been, cliched, cliched teenage characters, and instead they each feel distinct and fleshed out and believable. And it's just, I can't say enough good things about this. I am very interested to see where it goes from here, and I can't think of a single thing about this pilot I didn't like. It was damn near perfect in every way.
Yep. If there was one nitpick, I wasn't nuts about the guy that plays his his tech guy for his Black Lightning suit,
Right.
But it wasn't anything that took me out of the show at all. The show was awesome.
Yes.
Now, Thursday night brought us Arrow and the continuing saga of the team. What's going to happen to the team? When last we left them, the team, much to some people's chagrin, but much to mine and Nick's pleasure, had fractured and left us saying, hooray, we're back to Oliver, Felicity, and Diggle. But of course, we're not. Because in this episode, we split our time between Oliver, Felicity, and Diggle, and the newly formed team of Dinah, Renee, and Curtis, who are trying to form their own superhero team and hanging out in their own manner and being completely insufferable in the process.
Completely insufferable. They have
taking untenable stances and committing the cardinal sin, in my opinion, in the Arrowverse of yelling at Felicity.
Yelling at Felicity and Diggle. Yeah,
Yep.
As I told you off air, the major issue with this episode, Greg, is that the writer, whoever wrote it with the false pretense, that we care equally about the teams of Oliver, Felicity, and Diggle, and the characters of, Curtis, Dinah, and Renee. And the fact is,
we don't.
I don't know of anyone that even remotely views those three as being on the same platform, in the same stratosphere or ionosphere even as the OG Team Arrow. Like when they yell at even Oliver, who has of course done questionable things throughout the history of the show, but when they have an issue with Oliver, I don't go, "Hey, they've got a point." I go, "Man, they need to learn some fucking respect." Like it's
absolutely. If you've ever seen the movie The Fighter, there's a scene in the movie when Amy Adams' character is criticizing Christian Bale's character in the film, and rightly so. But at one point, he stops her and goes, "Fuck you, Charlene." And at a certain point, I just wanted Oliver to say, "Fuck you, Dinah. Fuck you, Curtis."
No, I didn't want him to say "fuck you." I want to say "fuck you, Kurt." Like, good lord, dude, they have taken Curtis and made him.
Oh God, he's the worst.
The most unsufferable character in the entire CW universe, and that includes Wild Dog, who I have a noted hatred for. Like,
at least they have given Wild Dog
a tangible, realistic motivation.
Yes. motivation for acting like this. Curtis's motivation is that he's acting like the most self-absorbed person in the universe.
Yes.
Well, you offended my sensibilities. I don't think I can do this anymore.
Oh my God, you surveilled me against my will. Well, no shit. Somebody had turned rogue on the team, and they had to figure it out. Like, you know,
they've explained it. Oliver apologized and offered an olive branch.
But he shouldn't have apologized. He did nothing wrong.
What else he did, and they still shoved it back in his face. Well, that's not good enough for me.
It's
we
ridiculous.
go back to what? We go back to things as they were? What, do you want to run the show, you dick? You haven't done anything.
Oh, and the line about, like, well, unlike some people, we just can't stand by and watch Oliver do whatever the hell he wants. Like, what a dick. It's just a ridiculous thing to say.
At that point, and to their credit, Diggle's look of anger in that scene got me briefly excited because I thought maybe Diggle will just pull out his gun and bust a cap in Curtis's ass and kill him.
And here's my ultimate.
It would be deserved.
My ultimate concern about this plot line, Greg, is that they are going to wind up having Oliver be the one who makes some sort of grand concession towards them, and it would not be earned in any way, shape, or form.
I'm worried that it's going to end up showing that the other guys, the other part of the team, is right,
and they're not.
Which is not how, and they're not. No, and we don't want them to be. And they should go off and hey, you know how they're putting Kid Flash, which we're not going to talk about this week, but they're moving Kid Flash to Legends of Tomorrow, which is a great move. You know what else they should do? Well, actually, no. I love Legends of Tomorrow. So let me rephrase. What else they should do is they should kill Curtis, and they should move Wild Dog onto Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's just extremely frustrating, and it's one of those things where, you know, you and I talked about this. I ran this theory by you, or this feeling by you off air, and I'll run it by here. I'm reaching a point with this season of Arrow, and this may not make sense to some people, but hear me out for a second. I feel like this has been a season that is largely made up of pretty good episodes, but the season itself is not very good. And what I mean by that is, in each individual episode, whatever the story is that is self-contained, that is just told in that one episode, I find myself being interested in, and I'm like, oh, these are cool action scenes and character moments. But the larger narrative plot points that are tying the episodes together into one long story, I just couldn't care. I could not care less about. I don't care about, like, the drama between the team members. Like, I'm not invested in it at all because I feel like it's so clear that the OG Team Arrow guys are in the right and everybody else is in the wrong. I don't care about this alliance between Cade and James. Like, they have managed to take Anatoly and make me not care about anything he does or says. And
he's so awesome.
And that is a massive accomplishment in the wrong on the part of this writing team. So I'm not willing to put this, you know, into the level of, like, season 4 territory just yet. But this is on shaky footing right now for me in terms of the season as a whole.
Yes, and I can agree with that. Arrow is my favorite of the shows, but I hold it to a high standard still. And to me, the first half of the season, obviously the first quarter of the season, was amazing.
Yes,
and was so good when they came out of the blocks firing with great episode after great episode after great episode, and they tease us with these interesting plot lines of Oliver being the father to William.
Yeah,
Where the hell's William been?
Where's William? Apparently, he just gave up on being a dad. Now Raina is raising him, so it's just
So, you know, we've lost that subplot for the time being, and that was very compelling. And how Oliver and Felicity were going to, you know, build their marriage and build their relationship, which we saw in that great crossover episode. But that's kind of not been the focus of anything since they've done it. We've not even addressed the fact that they're married, basically. So,
they had the reception,
except for that one reception, and that was it. And we have substituted Deathstroke and Deathstroke's son as villains with Caden James and his band of characters no one cares about. We're supposed to care about Ricardo Diaz when he's only appeared and done anything in one episode where he got wiped out by basically his whole operation got wiped out by Diggle and the team.
The only reason you have to care about Ricardo Diaz is if you're a comic book fan and you know that he's supposed to be Richard Dragon, even though the portrayal at this point has nothing to do with Richard Dragon.
Nothing to do with Richard Dragon. No. That's very disappointing because I think Richard Dragon as the central villain of this season could be awesome. Way better than Caden James. And who knows, maybe they're setting it up for some big thing where he'll turn on Caden and take over the whole thing and reveal that he's actually a badass. But
I just can't see, Greg, another. What I mean, we're only how many episodes are we in at this point? Like 10 episodes.
Yeah,
because the back half is always longer than the first half. I can't see another like 12 or 13 episodes of Caden James. I just I'm not.
Like, how am I supposed to? No, he's not an interesting character. The actor's fine. The character's not interesting.
That season 4 is not a very good season, but I was far more interested in what Damien Dark was doing than anything that Caden James has got going on.
Right, I agree. The show itself was weaker, but Damien Dark was a compelling character because, I mean, let's be honest. What's that damn actor's name? I always forget his name, but
Neil McDonough.
Neil McDonough is a phenomenally charismatic guy. And so he always had these cutting lines, these funny lines that would make it entertaining. Not so with Caden, who's doing this kind of like emotionally disaffected character that we were talking about with Ultron, you know?
Yep.
It's the difference on playing Ultron straight versus playing him the way the Spader plays him.
Is it possible that ultimately the loss of the flashbacks has wound up being a net negative for Arrow, in that now they have more present-day time to fill and they're filling it with things that we don't care about?
I hate to say that because I thought in the first quarter of the season we saw what it could have been, you know? Because I think the biggest problem for Arrow that I thought they had learned their lesson about last season, they've, at times in these seasons, they forget that it's called
Oliver.
Arrow.
Yeah, Oliver is the main character.
Right. They forget that too often, in my opinion. He is the main character. He is the guy that makes the show tick. And I think too often we lose track of his narrative in favor of the rest of, and when it was just Felicity and Diggle, that was not a problem, by the way, because you have 3 people, you don't have 6 people whose stories you're trying to tell, which gets to my overall point that I have reached the decision. I reached this point long ago, honestly. There does not need to be a Team Arrow as it's envisioned right now. Team Arrow can be Oliver, Felicity, and Diggle, and that's fine. Maybe you can have Speedy join them out in the field as a
I was about to say,
sidekick,
I'm not opposed to the idea of a Team Arrow as much as I'm opposed to the idea of this Team Arrow. Like
this Team Arrow.
Imagine if like Thea could get back in costume and they could convince, Colton Haynes to come back and do, a couple more seasons as Roy Harper, and you get that Team Arrow with Speedy, Arsenal, Diggle, Felicity, and Ollie.
Yep.
And like, I'm all about that, but.
Yep, and you don't have to deal with constant drama about will the team stay together or not. Or
what about bringing back Ragman, who was great, in
Ragman was
season.
fun. Yeah, absolutely, Ragman was fun. Or just do freaking Green Arrow and just have him be on his own, with Felicity helping from behind the scenes and Diggle helping him when he needs him, and being part of intel and stuff like that. I think that sometimes there's this the thought is always bigger is better, and bigger is not always better. I think this is a case where, and I've said this with the Flash at times too, sometimes a shrinking of the team is needed. And I feel like Arrow's needed that for a while. They don't need Mr. Terrific. They don't need Wild Dog. Maybe you can keep Black Canary.
And I know we're very annoyed with him right now, but especially Mr. Terrific would feel like a character that would fit in perfectly on Legends of Tomorrow.
With Legends. Yep. Absolutely. I think it makes perfect sense for him to go to Legends. I think both of us have thought that for a while. So yeah, anyway, that being said, there was still some good stuff in this episode, mostly Ollie related.
Right.
But nevertheless, let's do our rankings.
Sure.
Number 1, Black Lightning.
Yep.
By a wide margin.
Yes.
Number 2 for me, I think Flash.
Yes.
Even though it's I was tempted to dock it more because of how much I don't like the new DeVoe.
Right, but I enjoyed all the Barry stuff in that episode more than I enjoyed the stuff any of the stuff in Supergirl, I would argue.
Agreed. And Supergirl at 3.
Yep.
And unfortunately Arrow at 4.
Yeah, my rankings are exactly the same. I mean, I agree.
But let me tell you how Arrow's going to get me back here in a few weeks, Nick. Because Katrina Law, who plays Nyssa Al Ghul, every Arrow fan loves her. She'll be back.
This is our mini rundown for the week, by the way, folks.
Yes, she'll be back on the show, and in a few episodes. And obviously, very happy to have her back. She's always a good addition to the show. But here's really why we're excited. Well, I'm going to get to the part that's less exciting. first of all, there was a press release or a statement sent out by Wendy Miracle and Mark Guggenheim, the co-showrunners, that said that Nissa's return will mark an event that will change Arrow forever. Who knows what that means, but it sounds like it's going to be a big event, and hopefully will mean the dissolution of these idiots that are dragging the show down. But what's really exciting
from a narrative standpoint, because they're building to a team versus team throwdown at the end, which it's just frustrating.
I know, but maybe they blow that off quickly and introduce a new villain in that Nissa episode. I don't know. But here's the deal: what's really exciting about this Nissa episode is the title of the episode, because the title is the Thanatos Guild.
Yes.
Now, what does that mean to you, the listener? Probably nothing. Why are we so excited about this, Nick?
We are excited because if there is one fundamental truth in this world, Greg, the only truth that you can really base your entire moral code upon, it is that Poindexter is Thanatos, and Thanatos
is Poindexter.
Yes. References so inside, no one will get them.
No one will ever get them. But I'm getting a headache, which can only mean that it's time for us to wrap up this show.
Oh,
it's time for us
now wait a minute.
to wrap up.
Wait. Now wait a minute. Now what if Team Arrow? Now let me sell you on Team Arrow. Here we go. To battle Thanatos, not only do they bring in Hulk Hogan's character from Mr. Nanny, but they also bring in the sassy black maid to hit Thanatos with a rolling pin.
Now, are we going to be able to reanimate or maybe digitize Sherman Hemsley to also return from the grave and join the fight?
Actually, what will happen is Legends of Tomorrow will bring us an aged version of Diggle who is aged into Sherman Hemsley.
And then that way, the next 3 years of Arrow will be building to the scene where he gets the limp, little hobble in his walk. You know, this is perfect. I think that's a great way. And what better way to wrap up the longest running weekly episodic comic book podcast in all of Place to Be Nation than with talk of a reanimated Sherman Hemsley as Diggle.
As Diggle, yes.
Diggle as Hemsley.
Old man Diggle.
So, Nick, what do we have coming the folks' way next week?
Next week, we're actually getting into Black Panther month. That's right, we're going to do an entire month of shows devoted to Black Panther. Our plan, as of right now, is to kick that month off with a long book hunt, as we're going to take a look at the first volume of the very critically acclaimed Christopher Priest Marvel Knights Black Panther. I believe the volume is entitled The Client. And so our plan is to go back and take a look at that for the initial show of the month. The next week, we're planning on bringing you a look at the short-lived BET animated series Black Panther, followed by, of course, our special full-length review of the theatrical Black Panther film, and then wrapping up the month of February with a second long book hunt focusing on the most recent Black Panther volume written by famed author Ta-Nehisi Coates, and looking at the first volume of his run, which I believe is titled A Nation Under Our Feet.
Indeed. All of that and so much more coming your way. But, Nick, before we leave, I have to leave us with a lightning round question.
Oh, awesome.
And right now, what we're going to do is we're going to have a tag team match playa.
Okay.
I'm going to take we're going to have a mixed match challenge right here on the Hard-Traveling Fanboys. The contest is between country duet legends. On the one side, we have Kenny Rogers, the Mountain himself, the Gambler, all 395 pounds of him. And you have as his partner the legendary, the voluptuous Dolly Parton.
Of course.
All 375 pounds of her breasts.
Oh, now, come on now.
And in the opposite corner, I give to you the Possum George Jones.
Mm-hmm.
And the Howler herself, Tammy Wynette.
Oh, that's not even close. George Jones and Tammy Wynette trounce Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton.
I'm with you, actually, for once. We are unanimous in this. Absolutely. I thought there would be more debate on your part.
No, not even close, man. Not even close.
Well, there you have it, folks. The Possum and Tammy place a golden ring around the necks
with
of
one
Kenny
tiny
Rogers
little
and
stone.
Dolly Parton. Absolutely. And now Kenny and Dolly are left laying like islands in the stream. And we hope you join us next week on our journey through the cosmos as we enter the world of Wakanda and the Black Panther.
Hard-Traveling Fanboys, 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 Hard-Traveling Fanboys,